whenever we want to start talking about Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Because you know what, though? Let's just set ourselves up for failure immediately by calling it the name of the original movie that's good.
Yeah.
Because it worked for Scream, so it'll work for us.
And it's different enough.
Even though they had another idea for the title of this film. It was going to be at one point Texas Chainsaw Begins.
Oh, Lord.
Which...
Begins?
Yeah, like what does that mean?
Like a prequel?
Begins again?
Yeah.
It's beginning again.
and they dropped the at the beginning.
Well, that's how you know it's different. It's like Suicide Squad and the Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
Yeah, now we know it's different.
Yeah.
Because
Texas Chainsaw.
Yeah, now it's the Texas. Oh, okay, got it. Oh, the is
the next one.
Yeah,
the next one's just gonna be called Texas.
Yeah, and then the next one after that's gonna be called Massacre.
Yeah, and then Chainsaw. And
yeah. So
it was already the beginning that already happened.
Yeah, right. It did with Alexandra Daddario.
No, it was the prequel to the 2003 remake.
I thought that was the one with Alexandra Daddario. Oh no, that was the sequel.
That was the 3D. That
was this movie.
Yeah. They
essentially.
And it didn't work, so then they did it again, and, there's a lot of retconning here.
Yeah. So on this episode of the Culture Cast, I'm joined once again by my good friend, vocalist, singer, man about town, Andy Gnosis.
Hello.
Horror fan, though. That's why you're really here.
Yeah, that's the first priority is horror.
Well, and because you, like myself, like to talk about horror stuff. Because we end up just talking about it anyways, so... We figure it'd probably be better if we set aside time to talk about horror movies, so then when we work, we're not talking about horror movies. Look at that, see? We're being smart here. Maybe. On this episode, we're going to be talking about something that I had kind of thought about talking about a month ago when it came out, and didn't kind of happen for various reasons. I was in Texas at the time, that's kind of the main reason. But we're going to be talking about 2022's Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
So Harlow is a ghost town.
We have a vision for this place. All it needs is young blood.
I don't want to live here. This is a chance for people to start fresh somewhere. Somewhere safe. Hey guys, you should see this.
What are you doing in our house? You really shouldn't be here.
This is Hardesty.
Sally? I'm afraid your old friend's back.
50 years I've been waiting for this night. Just to see him again.
Who?
Leatherface. Looks like it's you that he wants.
I'm not gonna let him kill you. Fear no evil. Fear no evil.
Try anything and you're canceled, bro.
Oh, fuck.
Which, again, I have to preface it by saying 2022's Texas Chainsaw Massacre because they wanted to name it the same name as the original goddamn movie from 74. Sorry. Chainsaw is one word this time.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
The and chainsaw.
Right. Chainsaw, not chainsaw. It's chainsaw.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Andrew, tell me a little bit about, let me do the intro here. Let me do the actual intro here.
I can feel your anticipation,
Yeah,
that you really don't want to talk about this
I really don't want to talk about this movie. So the film is directed by David Blue Garcia, though technically it was originally Ryan and Andy Tohill who came in, but they were replaced due to creative differences. It is based on a screenplay by Chris Thomas Devlin, based on a story by Fede Alvarez, but ladies and gentlemen, don't get your hopes up with that name being mentioned, because there are some things I think he contributed, and we'll talk about it, but this is not a Fede Alvarez movie, so if you're watching it because you think it's going to be, don't watch it for that. It stars a bunch of people you've probably never seen before, aside from Elsie Fisher, who was amazing in Grown Up. Is it called Grown Up? Is that the movie? 8th Grade, the Bo Burnham movie. She was the lead in that movie, which was really good. That movie's really good. You should go check it out. Bo Burnham's great. But, yeah, a bunch of people you don't recognize, aside from, I guess Alice Krieg is here. She plays the Borg Queen. William Hope is here. He was one of the, I forget the character he played, but he was in Aliens. And he was also in Hellraiser 2. He played the doctor, and one of the doctors in Hellraiser 2 that gets killed by... The fuck is her name? In the second one, when she comes back and she's killing people, he is one of the people that she kills. But other than that, for the most part, it's people you have never seen before.
Yeah, I didn't recognize anybody. Maybe the old lady that gets forcefully removed from her home.
Well, yeah, she's. I mean, again, she's the Borg Queen. She's done a ton of stuff.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and I guess she was in Chariots of Fire, which I've never seen, but I know her as the Borg Queen from Star Trek First Contact.
Okay.
But she's great. But that all out of the way, we are going to be talking about spoilers, but before we talk about spoilers, I like to give a little, if you haven't seen it yet and you're on the fence, Andrew, quick thoughts on the movie before we talk spoilers.
If you are a diehard Texas Chainsaw fan, I will say it's worth a watch just so that you know what everybody's talking about, but you're not going to walk away.
Is anybody talking about this, though?
Well, only horror fans, but you're not going to walk away with anything new. So
no.
So it's I don't know. There's nothing new brought to the table, and it's like the bare minimum of a Texas Chainsaw movie.
Yeah, I would agree. It's nice to look at in parts. I think it's visually arresting at times, but so what? So what? I guess
style, no substance. I don't know.
Yeah, welcome to.
I feel
Halloween
like I enjoyed
Kills
it
all over again. I mean, it kind of feels like Halloween Kills did in a way. Like,
right. The only difference is Halloween Kills at least had the scope of a film. Like it felt cinematic.
Yeah. That's weird.
In this one, I don't know if it's because it was on Netflix or what decision was made to. It just feels like, when they said it was going straight to Netflix, it looks like a Netflix movie, and that's the problem that I had with it at first. It doesn't feel like it's a part of any kind of cinematic universe. And if it's supposed to be a direct sequel, I don't know, there was a whole different way that they could have gone, but they went small scale. And I think that was a huge detriment to the movie.
Yeah, I agree. So I would say don't watch this movie, but we'll get to why. But for me, I think this is a skip. Look, you can watch it for free. We all have fucking Netflix. I'm not going to tell you skip it or watch it, because at this point it's free. It's free. There's nothing stopping you from watching it other than if you don't have an hour and 20 minutes to spend.
Right.
So, let's talk spoilers. This movie is really bad. This movie is really fucking stupid, too. And this movie looks like it was filmed in Bulgaria because it was. And look, I have no problem with films being filmed other places trying to masquerade themselves as elsewhere. Bulgaria always looks like Bulgaria. It just kinda does. Yeah. Go watch any Steven Seagal DTV film, and you can tell where these fucking movies are being shot. And like you said, that kind of gives it a little bit of that Netflix movie feel. Because unless you've got Ryan Reynolds and The Rock and Gal Gadot in your film, I'm not sure they're like, well, you're going to have the biggest budget possible to make your movie. They're like, make your fucking movie. Which they did make their fucking movie. But this is a really idiotic entry into the Texas Chainsaw franchise. And it's idiotic for me for a number of reasons, but I'm curious for you, longer take on this movie. What is your kind of experience and exposure to Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the franchise, and how did it color your thoughts on this amazing new entry into the series? The fucking 9th entry here, on top of every 9 of these movies. Like, that is a question that Ghostface would ask you and you would get wrong. How many movies are there in the Leatherface franchise? I don't fucking know. 10? 9 is not the answer any rational person would give. So, all that aside, Andrew, what did you think of Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022?
I guess in comparison, there are worse sequels. I think that
Halloween Resurrection.
Well, I mean, in the series.
Oh, you know yeah. I thought you were just. Oh, I thought you were saying in general. Like, yeah, in general, there are. You were being specific. Oh, Chris the Idiot's just like, yeah.
But, they all had their own reason to be horrible. The first one I was ever exposed to was the 90s one with Renee Zellweger and Matthew McConaughey.
Oh.
And, yeah.
Well, what?
Yeah.
The first one I was exposed, you were really exposed. It exposed itself to you.
Well, yeah. I mean, being raised in the 90s, that was the first one I ever saw. And
it's kind of surprising. I'm surprised you didn't see, well... Okay, I'm surprised because I'm surprised you didn't see the first one first.
Well, I was a child, so I didn't know I was a horror fan quite yet.
I was a child.
So the movie was on, and my family was watching. I thought it was horrifying. I was like, wow, there's crazy people like this in backwoods America, and obviously now I'm older, and I think it's just not good. But
I was saying, would you come down on the side of Texas Chainsaw movies for the most part are good or for the most part are bad?
No, for the most part they're bad.
There are 9 of these movies, so we'll just lightning round here. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original, good.
Good.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, the Chainsaw Duel movie, good. Texas Chainsaw 3, or Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw 3. I have not seen that one.
I forgot about that one. I didn't like it, so bad.
The Next Generation.
Bad.
Really, really bad. The 2003 Jessica Biel remake.
Perfection.
I like that movie a lot.
Perfection. It is the perfect Texas Chainsaw movie.
Yeah, and it's the best of those kinds of movies that came out. Like, it's the best reboot, like fresh reboot.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think we got that and Freddy and Jason all within like 5 years of each other.
Yeah.
They went nowhere with those other ones, so this one must have been somewhat more successful. But yeah, no, 2003 one's great. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Beginning. That title should sound familiar.
Yeah, decent.
Is that's the Alexander Daddario one, right?
No, it's...
I just don't know which one she's in. That's the Jordana Brewster one.
Yeah.
That's the one at the end where she's in the car getting away and he just fucking kills her, right?
Yeah, because you have to remember, you're like, oh shit, wait, this is the beginning, so nobody gets away.
Right.
So she dies in the end. Yeah. So I'll say that one was decent, just for the sake of like gore and just revisiting the family again was fun.
Right.
Wasn't as good as...
That's the 03 timeline, right?
That one came out in 06.
Right, but there's like there's 3 timelines here. There's the original continuity, which we're going to talk about with these movies.
Yeah.
And then there's the Platinum Dunes remake continuity, which is the 03 movie and the 06 movie.
Yeah.
And then there's the alternate continuity, which is Leatherface 2017, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 74, and then Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3D.
Right.
So they've already done this once where they're like, we're going to erase the originals or we're going to erase, the sequels. They've already done that.
Right.
Texas Chainsaw 3D, okay.
Hated it.
It was, I remember thinking it was just okay. I think the redesign for his mask looks like shit.
Yeah. It looks like a paper bag, like a plastic bag or something. I saw that one in theaters when it came out. I was very excited. I don't know why the trailers weren't selling me, but, I don't know.
That's the Leatherface isn't a bad guy movie.
Do your thing, cuz. Yeah, that's... Oh, God. There's so many...
Do your thing, cuz.
The liners in that movie were just not good. But I did like the sheriff being a scumbag, but...
But the sheriff's a scumbag in the 03 one.
That's what I'm saying. That's nothing new, so...
Right. And then Leatherface from 2017.
I did see that one.
That's a weird one.
It is weird. I don't know where I stand on that one because it doesn't feel like a Texas Chainsaw movie. It's essentially, I guess it's not. It's an origin story. I honestly don't know how I feel about that one. I don't remember much from it other than the guy that I thought was going to be Leatherface turned out to not be. And then it was the other guy or something. I don't know.
I don't know. I think for me with that movie, it was like, I don't need the Leatherface origin story. Like, I just don't care.
Yeah.
Like, who gives a shit? Like, I mean, I know why we care. We care because of things like Star Wars, like who is Darth Vader, like Hannibal, who is Hannibal Lecter. Like, we care because we want to know what makes these villains so compelling. But I think what people fail to realize is what makes them compelling is that we don't know. Like, we don't know. Like, I don't need, like, you know, talking about something we talked about last time, like, I don't need a Billy Loomis origin story. Like, I don't need that. Like, you can give me enough in the film proper without needing to give me another film to explain the film I've just seen. Like, you should be able to, as a screenwriter, not the director, mind you, the writer should be able to infuse enough of the exposition into the film, enough character building into the film that I don't need a prequel film to explain why I should find Leatherface enthralling. Because look, that's the other thing here. Where does Leatherface rank for you in killers in movies? Because, like, he's nowhere near the top for me.
Yeah, I wouldn't put him in the top either because he doesn't do much killing. There's a lot of Texas and Chainsaw, but not a lot of Massacre. So, like,
this is the first time we get like a true massacre.
Yeah.
Like, this puts that, like, if anything, this movie puts the ass in Massacre. There's one scene in this movie that I would contend is, like, why you're watching it, and I think you would agree, and I think the stupidest thing about this entire movie was the run-up to it with the advertisement. They should never have shown that bus scene.
Oh, in the trailer?
Yeah, they should never have shown the bus scene in the trailer.
Yeah, because that's the only good scene in the movie.
Yeah. I don't know if it's...
Although a lot of it doesn't make sense, but, you know, like...
Almost all of this movie doesn't make fucking sense.
Yeah, but I can suspend my disbelief just for a good massacre scene. But there was a shot in there that I was like, how did they not hear Leatherface coming? Because, you know, the guy gets off the bus to check what's going on.
I'll be right back.
Yeah, and then his decapitated head gets thrown back in. But we didn't hear a chainsaw or... This was the quietest chainsaw.
No. I always watch stuff with subtitles on, and it did say chainsaw revs. But if you don't have the subtitles on, I don't know how you would have heard it.
I didn't hear it, and
should have like a spray of blood along the side of the bus or something.
Something like, I don't know. It just that didn't make a lot of shit did not make sense that I'm going to get to. But yeah, as far as like ranking, as far as killers, not one of my favorites.
No. And, you know, like, I just want to get this all out of the way before we talk about the movie, because, like, I want people to understand where we're coming from as horror fans, because I think that's important. If we're going to talk about shitty horror fans on our last episode, we should probably let you know where we are as horror fans, at least with this. Because, like you said, for me, I saw the original, hey, it's fine. I understand and I appreciate what it did for the genre overall. Not my favorite movie. I'm not even sure anybody's going to be like, Texas Chainsaw Massacre is my favorite movie. Like, okay. But I like the idea of Leatherface.
Yeah.
I don't think it's particularly executed well in any of these movies, aside from maybe the 03 one. But the 03 one felt the most, like, I don't know, most to my sensibilities. Like, there was something just... The 03 one is mean. Like, really, really, really mean. Like, I don't know if you've seen it recently, but, like, it's unnecessarily mean.
I don't know.
Arlie Ermey, I think, pushes it in that direction, but I think him being in that movie was a stroke of genius anyways.
Yeah, it worked. That movie really, really worked. And when it came out, keep in mind, I was still in the mindset that I thought this had all really happened in Texas at some point.
Right.
Because you grow up and everyone's convinced that it did happen, and you hear all the stories in the cafeteria. Oh, yeah, well, my grandpa was there when Leatherface was arrested. And everybody's got these bullshit. It's like the Ouija board story that everyone has told. Oh, one time we tried to throw it away and it came back.
Right.
Yeah, everybody's full of shit. Okay, none of this is real. But the 2003 one did something genius by making it feel like it really did happen. And therefore, it was... I believed that everybody in this town knew each other, and therefore whoever was driving through, they were doomed no matter what. Whoever they turned to, they didn't know who they could trust. On top of that, the casting was great for the family because I actually believed that they were related. They kind of looked like each other. It was dark. It was
almost too dark at times, and I'm talking
Maybe.
about the cinematography.
Oh yeah. Well, Marcus Nispel is
it's a little mud slicked. It's a lot of mud slicked.
It's like heavy metal music video type of stuff.
Yep.
But aside from that, which doesn't bother me at all, it was like grounded in reality somewhat. So I think that's why that one is clearly a standout. That's as far as all of the films in the series go. I always say that one is just perfection as far as a Texas Chainsaw movie can go. Which is why the original, I actually really love the original. I prefer the 2003 version because it takes what the original wanted to do and like really, pushes it. Because not a lot happens in the original film. Although I do love the original film and I appreciate the original film. I think I'm more in love with, like you said, the idea. And I do love everything that went into making that film. The original title was Head Cheese for Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The original one.
Yeah.
It was going to be called Head Cheese.
Well, it's because they're eating people.
Yeah. But what a silly title.
Head Cheese 3.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why it's not the actual fucking title of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same camp as you. I mean, we've already kind of talked to the third, the 03, I guess, the proper, reboot. I think it's interesting that you and I feel the same way about that movie because, like, I was reading, about it, and I was reading kind of stuff about it after the fact. It's not like it was, it's still pretty poorly received. Like, it was poorly received at the time, too.
Mm-hmm.
Which I, like...
That's interesting.
I don't get, because, like, for me, I would have felt like, well, again, it's horror, so, again, the mainstream... I'm sorry, and this is a discussion that we could have had last week, and we could have a little bit now. Not sure I give a shit about what mainstream critics have to say about horror movies.
No, I don't.
Like...
What do you know?
That's the thing. Like, horror movies are one of those genres where appreciation of the genre is almost not required, but I don't know if this is going to sound so terrible, but I think you would agree. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I care about the opinion of someone who doesn't like horror in how it pertains to horror movies.
Yeah, why?
If you don't like horror movies, if you don't like,
what are you doing
movies,
here?
Yeah, if you're not into horror movies, you're probably not going to like them. And look, I'm not saying like all critics are wrong, but I think some critics don't like horror movies, and I think that shows.
Yeah.
But hey, you know what? That's perfectly fine. Yeah. But that's why I'm kind of like with horror movies. That's like the one genre where I'm like, the critics maybe are not. Maybe I don't worry about the critics too much.
Mm-hmm. Especially the ones that are obviously not horror fans.
Yeah.
It's like comedy.
But
critics.
They love The Lighthouse. But they love It Follows, and that's the cynicism there that comes out of it.
Yeah.
Elevated horror. Elevated horror should just be rephrased to horror that critics can get behind, because that's really what you're saying.
Yeah.
You're making horror movies for critics.
Yeah, and that's interesting because like films like Silence of the Lambs and Misery, I wouldn't consider elevated horror, and yet those are like Oscar-winning films.
Silence of the Lambs is a perfect movie.
Yeah.
Period. There is like very few movies that I consider perfect. This has come up a couple times this year now, and it's come up here once again. Silence of the Lambs is a perfect movie, and like you said, to call it a horror movie would be almost to miss the point about how good of a movie it is. But to your point, like, it's a horror movie.
Yeah, like we get to claim that. Like, it's almost like don't take away the horror part of it just so that you guys can claim it for your, Oscar buzz. It's a horror film. Just say what it is.
Right. I mean, it's like The Exorcist, right?
Yeah, it's a fucking horror film, but no, it's elevated and it's Oscar worthy.
I mean, again, I think these are bad examples because these are movies that like inform other movies for years to come. But I think you're right for the most part. I just think these movies, like, they're kind of like Silence of the Lambs and The Exorcist and Misery are like really good movies that deserve to be watched by everybody for various reasons. I think referring to them as horror movies for some reason like takes them out of some sort of discussion that people are having about good movies. Because for some reason, like, because movies like this exist.
Yeah.
That's the problem. This is what people think of as horror movies. They think of this. They think of this kind of 2022 Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah, and these movies are allowed to exist. That's not the point that I'm making. Is
Exactly.
It's all welcome. But if we're trying to have a discussion about the importance of horror and it being neglected, it's like rock and roll music in the genre. People think rock and roll, they think drunk assholes getting wasted and partying it up all the time, and yet we still praise classic rock as epic pinpoints in society. So like I think horror films should be acknowledged as well. I think this movie though definitely
we should acknowledge this movie, all right.
Yeah, and that's not just because we are horror fans does not mean that I am going to have a biased opinion about a horror film.
Right.
So to say
case in point,
this movie sucks. And
yes, it does.
It's funny because I enjoyed it while I was watching it.
See, I didn't. I will tell you why, because it felt like it felt like some of the times the movie was like clucking its tongue at me. It's like don't make assumptions about people's who they are, and it's like don't do that, and it's like oh fuck this movie. Like it's trying to be this it's trying to be woke. And it is woke, and in a lot of ways, the wokeness is what pissed me off so much, because it's not real woke. It's like making fun of woke people that, I'm sure these people do exist, but I just...
and I guess
it's like this. Are people really like this?
Right, and I think the movie's aware of that though, because the main character, I forgot her name, but she was awful. She was awful.
Which one? Melody, the one with the one with the Jerry curl?
Yeah.
Sarah Yarkin, who's been in a ton of things that the two of us haven't seen. She's been in so many things that when you click on her on Wikipedia, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022 comes back up.
Okay.
She has been in very few things of this scale. The only other thing that I have seen that she was in, and you probably saw it too, but you don't remember, was she was in Happy Death Day to You.
Oh, okay. I saw that once.
Yeah, I saw that once as well, because that one was not nearly as good as the first one.
It was a sci-fi film.
Yeah. Well, hey, nothing wrong with that, but
no.
That's not why I'm here.
It did have a great dramatic scene, though, between the daughter and the mother. It got me teared up a little bit.
But Sarah Yarkin's character in this movie is
oh my god,
so unbelievably unlikable that while at times you feel bad and you know what's coming, essentially at the end you know what's coming, but you just can't help but hope that she gets fucking killed.
Yeah, because...
And that's terrible. That's terrible to say. It really, I don't revel in this.
Is it? I do.
It kind of is, because, her character is written so unbelievably that it's that's the problem with this movie and with a lot of these kinds of movies is they make the characters so unlikable that I have a hard time believing they are just... I have a hard time believing that they're anything but a creation of a writer. It doesn't feel like a character. It feels like an idea that's been placed on a character that the character has to represent those ideas as opposed to a fully formed character.
Yeah.
But again, talk about a conversation you could have writ large about the horror genre is, are there any characters in the horror genre worth remembering other than the fucking murderers,
Yeah.
And then you come to this movie and you go, yeah, because Leatherface in this movie fucking sucks on top of everything. Leatherface is, oy.
Well, real quick, back to the main girl whose name I've already forgotten.
Sarah Yarkin, who plays Melody.
Okay. She reminds me of people that I've met who are, I don't talk down on people who are woke, I suppose, but
I suppose.
But being so woke to the point that everything that comes out of your fucking mouth is just an invitation to get socked in the face. You are so obnoxiously woke.
Micro-triggering.
I can't take a bite of a sandwich without you telling me why that's fucked up, Yeah.
That's a ham sandwich. Oh my God, don't you know how they raise pigs?
Right. And I am all for being socially conscious and sensitive to people's minorities and things like that, but she does it to a level where it feels so fucking forced that it's not genuine. And
Right.
therefore, I don't give a shit that anything happens to her because she kind of brought it on herself. You know, like
Literally, they brought this on themselves.
Right, because she was, you know, at the same time trying to be sensitive towards this elderly woman who doesn't want to leave her home, while at the same time...
We should set this up. So this entire movie is about two millennials who buy a ghost town, and they want to turn this ghost town into, I guess, like... I don't understand what the fuck they're doing. This is not a financially viable thing.
I didn't know what was going on.
Nobody's going to drive 7 hours from anywhere to go wherever the fuck they are, because they're in West Texas somewhere. Like,
yeah, and it was like gentrification.
They're gentrifying a ghost town. And in doing that, these two millennials show up with their pals, and then a bus full of millennials show up to buy the town from an auction, because I guess they bought the town, and they're going to auction off the buildings, and they're going to turn it into some gentrified nightmare. And that's where the story picks up, and then you get I know people like Sarah Yarkin's character, but they're not that obnoxious. There's still something else to them.
Well, like, she's full of shit. She's full of shit because when they pulled up to the gas station, she sees the white guy with a gun, right? She has no issue calling it out, which, by the way, you're in Texas. Everybody has a gun, all right? Yeah. I'm not saying I'm comfortable with everybody having a gun. I'm just saying maybe you're not from here. I'm assuming they weren't from there.
They're supposed to be from San Francisco.
Okay, yeah. See, well, that explains a lot.
The other coming into our town.
Yeah. But then there's this weird moment that is very relevant to today where they are pulled over. Of course, the gentleman that is driving just so happens to be a black gentleman. And I thought, okay, cool. We're going to have a really interesting interaction where she's going to speak up because she just needs to, because she seems to be all about downplaying her whiteness, right?
Right.
She didn't do anything. That was the weird part to me. She did nothing except kind of chat with the cop. I didn't even know why they were being pulled over. I only assumed that it was supposed to be a racist cop, maybe pulled over, driving while black.
Right.
And so I figured she would be the one that would speak up, not on his behalf, because he seemed to handle the situation just fine. But I figured, you're all about being woke and you had no problem talking shit about a guy holding a gun. So what was to stop you from speaking up on behalf of your friend? Or was it her boyfriend? Was he her boyfriend? No, it wasn't. It was the other girl was boyfriend. I didn't understand that exchange. And she did it again when they forcefully remove the elderly woman from her home. And yet she was so sympathetic towards this woman while her friend was uncomfortable with the Confederate flag being hung outside. It was just a lot of contradictions. And I didn't know if her character was written that way on purpose or if they were just fully unaware of all these contradictions that they were making in the script.
A little bit of both, probably.
Probably. I don't know. That's immediately I did not like her. And then, we're supposed to feel bad when she finds out that the woman did have the paperwork required to keep her home. I didn't care. I was like, I just don't fucking care. And
well, they didn't give us a reason to care. So the entire movie happens because these two millennials kick this older woman out of her orphanage that they supposedly own now. That turns out, like you said, they don't, and they kick her out. And I guess she's been taking care of Leatherface this whole time.
I was like,
Leatherface?
Who the fuck? What is he doing? What is he doing here?
He's hanging out. He is being taken care of because I guess they're copying from the 03 movie, which is what it feels like, that he's kind of mentally disabled, mentally challenged.
Well, he's supposed to be,
Right, but like in the original movie, they like...
Well, he is. In the original, he's supposed to be a mentally challenged.
Right, but they don't really like hammer it home. It's more like context clues and subtlety and like the performance, like the pig noises and stuff. Like that's kind of... But like in this, it's like, no, he's like being taken care of by a woman older than him.
He's taking care of her.
Yeah, I don't...
And it's funny because I didn't understand when they show him. I was like, is it, like, if you blink, you miss it. I was like, was that supposed to be Leatherface, like standing at the top of the stairs?
Yeah.
Like, nah.
Yes.
And I immediately
yeah.
I was like, nah, that's too fucking easy. And then it just turned out to be him.
Leatherface is in the back of a police van at one point in this movie as just a dude. Like,
Yeah.
it's this weird, like, I do appreciate that part of this movie. The demystifying of Leatherface. Like, I like that, like grounding him in reality, making him just kind of this like hulking monstrosity of a human being.
Which they later contradict, and I will tell you, but continue.
But man,
yeah, I appreciated that too. I was, that's why I said it was so easy, but then part of me was like, okay, but that makes sense, seeing as it's just a Texas family. There's nothing paranormal about them. There's nothing, it's not like Jason or Michael Myers or Freddy Krueger. That's why I think maybe that's why he doesn't fall in those rankings, is he's supposed to be grounded in reality.
Right.
And so as far as that goes, it worked, demystifying him, as you put it. But later in the film, he's completely mystified because he's able to survive shotgun blasts and stabbings and chainsaw attacks. And he's supposed to be just an elderly, murderous man, with mental problems. So I didn't understand how he was able to survive all of that, other than just for the sake of the film being at least an hour and 30 minutes. We could have killed him. She had, oh my God. The movie just, it's exhausting.
It did. So there are a couple things that we haven't mentioned. So Sally, the character of Sally Hardesty comes back in a Halloween Kills-esque way, or a Scream-esque way. But I would say esque only in the sense that those movies have a character come back like this. This movie is somehow, of Halloween Kills and Scream, this is the worst implementation. Because the actress Marilyn Burns, who played Sally Hardesty, has passed away, so that's kind of already like a big red flag. Like, the actress has already passed away.
Yeah.
Why are you doing this? Okay, so you want to do it because it's the character. Fine. They recast her. She's now being played by Olen Fouyer, who is I believe, a Scandinavian actress. Doesn't look anything like Marilyn Burns at all.
No, not at all.
Perfectly fine. She looks like a Scandinavian actress in a movie set in Bulgaria that's supposed to be Texas.
Yeah.
Like that's what it looks like.
Yeah.
Okay, so she comes to kill Leatherface. That's like the big part, because I guess she's been a Texas Ranger this whole time. She's been looking for Leatherface for 40 years, and she's within driving distance.
He's just chilling in an orphanage.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm like it's like the movie at times has like a good idea, and then it just like fucking sours it. It just says, nah, we're going to completely waste it. And
and there was a cop-out, too, because at the beginning, when they stop at the gas station, the man behind the counter tells them, that Sally's been looking for him for 40 fucking years. And, it's just difficult to find because he wore a mask in this ghost town. You could not find Leatherface even without a mask. It just didn't make any sense, especially being a sheriff, of all the shit you could have pulled to get to Leatherface, being a local, and being a part of this orphanage, which I assumed was an orphanage for like wayward children. Not like a regular orphanage, because why the hell would they let him be there?
I guess it was for wayward children. Here's something I don't understand. The original movie takes place in 1974. This orphanage has been open since 1925. How old was Leatherface in 1974? Can we just wait on that idea for? Are we being led to believe that in 1974 he's like a teenager?
I don't know how old he was supposed to be.
Right?
Oh yeah, he would have been really frail by that point.
He would have been like a 70 or 80-year-old man at this point.
Right. And I know a lot of people would Michael Myers is in his 60s. Yeah, but Michael Myers, the body is just a vessel for evil in this universe, So
Gunnar Hansen was born in 1947, and the movie takes place in 1974. So that's 3 plus 20 plus another 4. So he's 27. Okay, let's just say he's the age that Gunnar Hansen is in the original movie.
Right.
That was in 1974. This 50 years later, he's a 70-year-old man. Right.
And this actor that played him in this film looked barely 45, if anything.
Yeah.
And that was another thing that it was not believable. And if you've never seen these movies, these are little things that you don't care about. But as someone who's seen all these movies, and I'm fully aware of the timelines, it doesn't make any sense. And it has to make sense in a film that's grounded in reality. You know, it's not the Texas Paranormal Massacre. It is just the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It is simplicity. But when you add things like that to simple films, it pulls you out completely.
Yeah. And like you said, I mean, this could have been a very straightforward Texas Chainsaw movie. And frankly, it should have been. Here's what I don't know. Who was clamoring for this requel thing for Texas Chainsaw? Because look, you know, we both are fans of at least Evil Dead, 2013's Evil Dead. Mm-hmm. Everything else Fede Alvarez has done, take it or leave it. Girl in the Spider's Web I've never seen. Not sure I'm going to, given what it is, given how big of a fan of Girl with the Dragon Tattoo I am. But his 2013 Evil Dead is amazing.
Yeah, I loved it.
It's like one of the few like reboots that like or remakes that just like works.
It's straight to the point.
Yeah.
It didn't try
what I thought this was going to be.
New.
Yeah, that's what I thought this was going to be. I was like, well, if Fede Alvarez is involved in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, then we have the opportunity to have some really great gore. Evil Dead had great gore. Some great set pieces. Evil Dead had great set pieces. And a well-written script that's well thought out. That's straight to the point. And yet we got none of it here.
Yeah. I guess that's another thing that made me feel a little... I'm sure it was on purpose or intentional, but the area that the whole film takes place in is so small.
Feels like a set.
It feels like a set. And that was the issue I also had. You know, the remake ran from house to through the woods to a barn to a dilapidated house in the woods to the meat packing factory. To the gas station, like all of this shit made the film feel like this whole city.
No matter how far you go, you can't escape.
And this all takes place on a block.
Like on a street. Like this literally takes place on like a street corner.
Yeah.
Like one city blocks where it's again, like that's what I said, like at the top of this, I was like, this feels like cheap content. Mm-hmm. Feels like like you said, it feels like a Netflix movie. And it really doesn't. Like, that's not supposed to be a knock. But in this case, it is.
No, because there was a lot you could have done, whether even if it was low budget and the way it was shot.
I would contend they still did a lot. Like, it's a nice movie to look at.
Yeah. No, visually,
it's visually arresting in a lot of spots. Like, when Leatherface pops up out of the sunflower field. Like, that's great.
Yeah.
I think Leatherface's redesign is beyond the pale garbage. The face just doesn't look great. Doesn't look right. Yeah. It's not like
It's the face of the woman.
It's Alice Krieg's face, but like it doesn't look like her face. Like,
yeah. Also, why?
Yeah, I don't know. That's why why not take that blonde girl's face?
Yeah, you took the face of someone you liked.
Yeah, didn't they take the face of the Jessica Biel's boyfriend in the last movie, in the 2003 movie?
But that was creepy. Like, we didn't know he was going to do that. And it was that moment where she locks eyes with Leatherface and he turns around wearing her boyfriend's face. Now, she didn't know where he was. She could assume he was dead. But it was that moment where I don't even know how to explain. It was just absolute silent terror.
Yeah.
What do you do?
With the headlight on his face.
Yeah, because, in a moment like that could have been done really poorly of her just screaming her head off. But that moment, the way it was shot, and then with, I think they were like feathers flying all over the place because he had just killed the girl wearing that puffy jacket. I don't know, visually striking, but it made sense too. And that's what this movie doesn't do. It's visually striking, but nothing makes sense. So I'm just looking at something that looks cool, but it doesn't mean anything. And when it's a small exchange like Jessica Biel and Leatherface wearing her boyfriend's face, that is to me the epitome of horror. It doesn't have to be screaming over the top gore. It is something so simple as that really gave that movie, in my opinion, absolute class. That was horror at its finest, in my opinion.
Agreed. That movie's scary. I rewatched that movie a couple weeks ago in preparation for this movie to come out. And when I watched it, I was like, that is a good movie. Like, it still holds up. It still has the things that I want from a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, which it like builds on a backstory. It gives us a world that this lives in. It gives us, dare I say, somewhat compelling characters to follow. I mean, none of them survive aside from Jessica Biel, which is perfectly fine because this is ultimately still a horror movie. But yeah,
but see, that was the way that they did it, though. It felt like horror and dread. I felt emotion from these characters who could not escape this town. They could not escape these people. And that is what Texas Chainsaw Massacre should be, as opposed to characters I don't care about and trapped on a block type of thing. I'm always going to reference a Texas Chainsaw film to the 2003 one because it just worked. I felt like I was stuck in this town with these characters, and I wasn't rooting for Leatherface. I was rooting for these characters to get out, even the ones that were short-lived. You know, the first guy to get it, we only knew him for like 5 minutes, but we got to know his character just enough in the van that when he was running through the sheets, we were like hoping, at least I was like, get out of there, and he doesn't, gets his leg, chopped off and is taken into the lair. And we're like, well, he's fucked. He's doomed. He's not getting out of there.
Right.
And the movie had emotion when Jessica Biel had to kill him because he was suffering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's up with that? Like giving the characters some stakes? Like,
I remember seeing that and I was choked up. I was like, my God, like, what would you do in that situation? It makes you think. What do you do in a situation like that? What do you do to get out of there? Is you start to really put yourself in the film and start questioning yourself as a person. What are my survival skills? Would I keep running? Would I just give up? Would I kill my friend if they ask it? I know that they're suffering. And Jessica Biel's character is so great because she just keeps running. She does not stop. And she tries to save her friends.
Yeah.
She really does her best to save her friends. She stops them from being hurt as much as she can. And each time she fails, she could have easily just been like, fuck it, and fall and die. But she didn't. She kept getting up. And that is the fucking final girl that I'm rooting for. This film has nobody to root for. Nobody.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like Elsie Fisher is the person you root for only because you have to root for someone.
Is she the girl? She's the younger girl.
The one who is, so that's oh my God, we didn't even
the backstory there.
Oh my God. Talk about like really trying to like ground this in like our current day and age.
Yeah, there was something they could have done with that.
She is a survivor of Sandy Hook, or was the one in Florida?
Oh, I didn't know it was in relation to something actual.
It's supposed to be like, she's supposed to be with a Stoneman Douglas, one of those kids one of those kids who got, survived, like, I forget, David Hogg, I think his name is. It's supposed to be one of those, like, kids who survives a school shooting, and her character survived a school shooting. And so, like, there's this whole, like, backstory of trauma, which is very Final Girl-esque.
Sure.
But it's not good! It's so bad! It's so mind-bogglingly bad. Yeah. Well, they keep in some scenes they'll do like a quick like cut, like a flash cut to like her like remembering like what's going on now in relation to what happened to her in the high school. So she'll be like on the ground looking up and she'll like have a flash that she's back in the school. Like that, like that's pretty boilerplate stuff. But to your point, who gives a shit?
Yeah.
You don't do anything with it. It's not integral to the story, and it's not even integral to her character. It just gives her character the ability to walk off, and people are like, oh, she's just lost in her own head. We'll let her walk off. It's like, okay.
Yeah. It felt very like it makes sense in other films when trauma allows a person to finally stand up for themselves.
Scream.
Yeah, Scream. Even 2018's Halloween. Last House on the Left, you know what I mean? Like there's films like that where I like a backstory. I like to know that this is not a perfect character. They've been damaged in some way, but they're not going to let it, bring them down. And in a situation like this, when I was watching it the first time around and they had the little flashback, I got excited. I was like, oh wait, there's something here. Finally, there's something here worth watching. So this movie's going to really get into it. And it was a setup with no payoff. There was nothing. They didn't do anything with it. And it was so upsetting because that first shot of her lying on the ground and the sound, you see bullet shells all over the floor and dead teenagers everywhere. It struck me, and I was like, okay, this is serious. There's something really traumatic going on here, and she's going to have some sort of revelation, but she didn't, and it sucks because I was really, really rooting for her, and by the end of the film, I didn't care, and that's saying something because I gave a shit,
Yeah, and I think I think that would be a tribute to Elsie Fisher's performance. I think she's a good actress.
Oh, again, she was fine.
In 8th grade, I liked her a lot. In this, she's great. But here, she's just... They want everything to go through her sister's character. Because you follow her sister for most of the movie. Yeah. And her sister, again, is just so woefully unlikable that you just don't care.
Yeah. Because she is a great actress, though, because she played that part really, really well.
Yeah, she played the obnoxious millennial really well.
Yeah, oh, God. Is that what people think of us?
I guess so. and then you've got all these other characters that are essentially just fodder to be murdered. I mean, you have the blonde girl. The blonde girl who just gets stabbed to death within the first five, like her third scene in the movie, essentially.
By the way, that kill was so anticlimactic. There was such a buildup, and I was like, oh, he's going to fuck her up. You know what I mean? Because he did the bone snapping thing like 2 seconds before and stabbed the guy in the throat with his own, arm bone. And I was like, it's stupid, but I like it.
Right. Yeah, it was all right. Right.
Yeah. So, and then he finally pops up because there's just this tension of where is he? Where is it? She doesn't know what to do. And then there he is. And I was like, oh, she's going to get it. And no, she just gets a little slice on the gut and she's done. No guts falling out, nothing being ripped out, nothing.
Didn't take her face, nothing.
Nothing. And isn't he supposed to be like, he's a meat guy, right? So
I don't know that's the thing. Like, that's what I assume, but yet I don't know what source material they're using.
He's a butcher. Isn't he supposed to be? I don't know. I don't know which universe.
Where's the cannibalism part? They don't even bring the cannibalism up here.
Right.
It's like they forgot about the human meat eating on top of everything else. Like, that's a huge part of the Leatherface story.
Yeah, cannibalization. The only part was him putting on the woman's face.
Right, and then putting on the makeup, which I guess was probably some sort of nod back to the original movie.
See, I liked that because I was like, this is kind of cool. Leatherface isn't this big. The gender does not fucking matter, right? Right. In that moment, he felt pretty. Or he wanted to make sure the face was pretty, and so I like that.
Me too. A quiet moment in a horror movie, novel concept.
Yeah, and but other than oh Jesus, this movie.
It's just it's the problem with this movie is I read a review that I think sums it up perfectly, and I would echo it entirely. If you take Leatherface out of this movie, this could be anything.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. I agree.
This isn't a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. It is in name, but holy shit! Like, take Leatherface out of this movie and put anything in there. But the Creeper from Jeepers Creepers in there. As far as I'm concerned, it's the same goddamn idea. In the middle of nowhere, something kills a bunch of people. In the middle of nowhere is the part of this that you have to.
This could have been Hills Have Eyes.
Right. It could have been anything that takes place in the middle of nowhere where people are isolated, where they're somewhere that they ostensibly shouldn't be. Mm-hmm. And instead of it being Leatherface, it's the Creeper, it's Hills Have Eyes, it's who the fuck knows? We could create our own thing right here that would be infinitely more interesting than the thing that they passed off as Leatherface.
How great would have been if it was a Chucky movie?
You know what this should have been? I was thinking about this. You know what this should have been? They should never have told us it was a fucking Leatherface movie. That should have been like the big reveal. Was he's slamming into the wall and you're like, what is he fucking doing? He's bashing the wall open. And then you see that shot of him pulling the chainsaw out and you're like, oh my God, it's a Leatherface movie.
Exactly. Oh, see, that would have
been. But like, why the fuck don't you do that? Oh, because if you do it that way, you can't take advantage of the name Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
We can't promote it. You know what I mean? And oh God, see, I didn't even think about that. And now I'm thinking that would have gave the movie something to work with. Like, the marketing would have been brilliant. I think, didn't the Blair Witch, the most recent one, do that? Like, it was.
Well, it did it with the advertising. It didn't do it with the movie itself. It did it with the advertising.
Okay.
But it did. It totally did.
That would have been really cool. Everyone was, we're going to go see this horror. Oh, there's this new horror film streaming on Netflix called Run.
Netflix is the best place to do this.
Yeah,
you fucking idiots. Let's go fucking idiots. Like, you don't even like. with the Netflix streaming, you don't have, like, there are some things you're not, you could just drop it on Netflix. Mm-hmm. That's what I would have done because, hey, oh, by the way, I don't know if you looked into this. This movie was, like, fucking taken out back and beaten to death by the people that they screened it for. It was, like, when they did, like, the screenings, the test screenings, it was overwhelmingly negative. So instead of retooling the film, you know what they did? They said, oh, fuck it, we'll release it on Netflix. Which, in my mind, and I don't know where you come in at, that is the it's getting dumped on Netflix thing.
Yeah.
That's like the definition of dumped on Netflix.
Yeah. And I think it would have been really, really beneficial to them to just drop it. Just drop it on Netflix, like you said, with a different title or no title. I don't know. And everyone will
something.
Yeah, and then that
call it Harlow. Just call it Harlow for fuck's sake. Like
the town. I don't fucking know.
Yeah, something. But don't let anybody know that it's a Leatherface movie because if you, honest to God, I think I might have liked this movie a lot if it had done that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because it's just like, okay, like we're gonna start introducing the little bits of Leatherface slowly. So first off, it's don't get him skinning people's faces in the first 20 minutes. Give it a little time, let it breathe, let it build, let him get the chainsaw first, and then take somebody's face. So the scene where he gets on the bus, that's the time when you see him as fully formed Leatherface for the first time in the movie.
Yeah.
And that's badass. Like, that would be so badass. He shows up, and all of a sudden you see, like, the rain-soaked window. You see this guy walking up, and you're like, oh, my God. And then he walks onto the bus, and he's got the chainsaw, and he's pulling on the face, and it's like, oh, shit, here we go. This is Leatherface. But no, it's like, we're going to have him get somebody's face in the first 10 minutes, because it can't be Leatherface without somebody's face. Even though, by the way, I don't know how you felt about this, saying Leatherface out loud sounds stupid. Doesn't it?
Yeah.
Leatherfuck. They called him Leatherfuck at one point in this movie. As opposed to just calling him what you or I would call him, hey, fuckface.
Yeah.
Not Leatherfuck, like, what? Like, hey, fuckface. Like, yeah. I don't know why they advertise this movie as a Texas Chainsaw movie when it doesn't feel like one, and if they had not advertised it as one, it might have felt more like one if they had. It's kind of this, it's weird, because I was trying to figure out, like, what would make this movie better, and in my mind, the thing that would make it better is not letting on that it's a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, at least from the outset.
Right. On top of that, I think Sally's character, I think they were going to do it no matter what would have really worked, in my opinion, is, I love that I have to say, in my opinion, a lot. Sally, I don't think she would have been the ballsy character that they wrote her out to be after experiencing what she experienced. I think she would have been a recluse. I think she would have, especially, like, if she stayed in Texas.
Which I don't even understand that.
Like why? Just get the fuck out of there. But I think it would have been great if they wanted to bring a Sally character in. It could have been a really great moment to show her as someone who really doesn't she never leaves the house. She's afraid of the outside world. And now she's being forced to face Leatherface again.
Write her like Laurie Strode's character.
Well, see, no, Laurie was looking for him.
Right, but my point is, I never understood Laurie Strode's character being written the way she was being written in Halloween.
It doesn't make sense.
Because she knew where he was.
Yeah.
She acted like she didn't know where he was. Mm-hmm. That would have been the way to write Sally's character, is like, write her as a woman constantly terrified that Leatherface is going to walk through the door.
Right.
Laurie Strode doesn't have to worry about that. It's been 30 years and he hasn't done anything because he's locked up. And he only escapes because of the machinations of other idiots, not on his own. He's locked up. He's not going anywhere. Frankly, I don't even know if he wants to leave. Like, but like, same with Leatherface. Like, that's the problem with this. Like, why do I feel bad for a character who has a situation put upon them that they have to deal with? And what character am I talking about? I'm talking about Michael Myers and Leatherface in these movies. Why am I going to feel bad that why do I feel bad for the people that Leatherface is killing when they interrupted his just like normal life?
Right.
Why do I feel bad for the characters that Michael Myers kills? Well, I feel more bad for them, but at the same time, like, they're like getting in the way of him, just like existing, it would seem. Leatherface is a bigger problem. Like, I don't understand why they brought Sally back just to do what they did with her character. Like,
can I also say in Texas, somehow people just don't die right away because Sally got chainsawed so good through the gut and
hoisted up into the air. He's like got her on his chainsaw and he's like jumping it up and down. Like she's like, she's dead. Like,
and yet she was alive enough to get one last shot in, you know, and it didn't make sense. Now, of course, that was it was supposed to be like a badass, you know, Laurie Strode moment, but it just wasn't. And I remember even when the trailer came out for this new Texas Chainsaw, it felt like I had seen this trailer before because she says in the trailer, not word for word, but within the same context,
pretty close,
that she's waiting for Leatherface. She's been waiting years for this. So
I've waited 40 years for this night.
Yeah, so I can kill him. And Laurie Strode in her trailer says, every night I have prayed that he would escape so that I can kill him. And it's like, we've seen this movie. And
it didn't work. And it didn't work in Halloween Kills either. It didn't work in Halloween either. Like that franchise, I don't think her character works there either because it doesn't make any sense. Like
it doesn't. And I'm just happy that Laurie Strode is back. That works for me because I put her up to the same standard as, you know, like Sidney Prescott. But in 2018, I hate to shit on that movie because I do like it. But Laurie keeps talking about trauma. This trauma that she's carried for so many years. And it's part of me wants to be like, I get it. But the other part of me is like, he only killed 3 people and you didn't even see any of it like happen. And he chased you for about like 2 minutes.
You stabbed him in the eye with a coat hanger.
Like, let's not act like you were tied in the dungeons and tortured for like a whole year. And you had to see all your loved ones dying around you. Like this thing happened within 5, like the chase scene is not that long.
No, in Halloween, like, Laurie's character is like incidental. Like she's just there. She just happens to be the last one alive.
So I don't understand how 40 years later her character would be this badass gun-toting booby-trapped house. Michael's not coming for you. He's not looking for you. You know what I mean? And I don't know. And well, see, that brings me to Sally has Leatherface at gunpoint at one point in this film. She can shoot him, right? And he does the Thanos of I don't even know who you are moment, you know?
Yeah, tell me, say my name. Say my name. Like, bitch, he didn't know you then.
He doesn't, it's like when Wanda, you know, jumps in and says, you know, you took everything from me. And he says, I don't even know who you are.
But see, that scene's great because then she turns around and fucks him up.
Yeah, because she says, well, you will, you know?
Yeah. And in these movies, it's like, say my name, and it's like, they don't. And they're like, I can't bring myself to kill him unless they give me what I want. It's like, then you didn't want to kill him to begin with. It was never about killing them. It was about you getting from them some sort of recognition that what they did to you is terrible. And it's like,
I need validation.
But you don't know, like, there's no, like, everyone in your life has probably validated to you for the last 40 years that what happened to you is terrible. Why do you need, like, it's writing. Let's just get this out. It's writing from a male perspective. It's writing female characters from a male perspective. You know why I say that? Because realistically, someone who's had that kind of trauma would go get help. Yeah. You would be in therapy for years. Mm-hmm. You wouldn't be just fucking, I'm just gonna sit in the middle of nowhere and gut pigs and shoot shit until he escapes again. You'd be going and getting help. I mean, people would be forcing you to get help. You've been in a like with Texas, like Sally Hardesty actually like went through some shit in that original movie. She's being fed human meat. She's being tortured. These assholes are killed all of her friends. Mm-hmm. Like you believe that she's been through some shit.
And that chase scene was long of just her running and screaming her lungs out because she has no idea where did this guy come from?
And they address it in those later Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies where she's like in a fucking institution. I mean, even in the comic books for Jessica Biel's character after the 03 one, she's institutionalized. Because it's like they're at the doorway to hell with these people. These people are incestual butt-fucking weirdos who are eating one another and eating anybody who that they can get their hands on. Of course it's horrifying. But you're going to tell me that, like, these people didn't go get help? No, they're just, like, sitting in white. Like, how are you any better than the people that did all this shit to you when you're just sitting there and, like, biding your time? So, like, your entire life has been ruined now of your own creation, frankly, because you can't find a way to go get help. Like, so then it brings us to the say my name moment of this movie, where it's like, say my friend's name, say my name. It's like, why? They don't know you.
Right. And to that point, I will admit my favorite films are female driven revenge films. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So I will say that not all women would go and get help.
Right.
I think, revenge is something that is just by nature.
Sure.
You know what I
I'm
mean?
more just speaking to like this, like there's this like macho dude thing where it's like you're not supposed to go get help. Yeah, you're not supposed to go get help. It's about revenge is driving you, revenge is motivating you. You're not supposed to go get help. The only help that you can get is the help that you bring to the situation by revenge. Like that's
right.
Like
and I think that's why
it's a very masculine, aggressive idea. I'm not saying like let's cope with Leatherface, and let's like have a fucking a happy fucking prayer circle with him. But like
I think that's why
your entire life to it.
I think that's why Laurie was written that way in 2018 because they did the whole get help approach in H2O, which you haven't seen. But in H2O, which is supposed to be a direct sequel to the first 2 Halloween films, retconning the sequels prior. Laurie Strode was not waiting for Michael. Laurie Strode was not the badass. Laurie Strode was in hiding, and she changed her name. And
which is what you would do if someone like that were out on the loose.
Right. And the trauma felt more real because it was 2 films that she experienced. In this timeline, the second film did happen. So that was a very long night that really fucked her up. So she was an alcoholic and a pill popper, and she's been in therapy. She even has a whole conversation with her then boyfriend who doesn't know that she's Laurie Strode. And
right, because again, you wouldn't tell people if you were.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not sure Sidney Prescott, like, people know who Sidney Prescott is, but, like, I'm not sure she's offering that information up willingly to people.
Right. Well, I think, there's a great scene where, he doesn't understand why she is the way she is, and so he's trying to help her. And she finally just one night decides to tell him who she is and the backstory. And he's like, he realizes, he's like, oh, fuck, I heard about that. I know that's you,
Right.
And then she's forced to face Michael because he is looking for her. In this timeline, it is still her brother. And therefore, it's not this moment of badassness of I'm waiting for you. I'm Sarah Connor and I have guns and say my name. It's more of a moment of, okay, fine. You're looking for me. You've found me, but I'm not going down without a fight.
Now I got to fucking deal with it.
Yeah. So there's a great moment in that film where she stops running, and it's really, really a great moment where she tells everyone else to get out of here because Michael is still in the school, and she walks up the driveway, and there's this moment where she just screams his name. Like, now I'm looking for you.
Right.
And therefore starts the back and forth chase scene of really what's her chasing him.
Right.
See, that's great. And that works. And characters like Laurie Strode.
Or fucking Heather Langenkamp. That's what she does to Freddy. It's like, I'm not afraid anymore.
Yeah, so
that's a one movie arc, ladies and gents. Like, Wes Craven did this shit better in one movie than anyone has been able to do with a franchise full of films.
Right. So, like, the idea of trauma makes sense. I get it, and I'm with you there. But it has to make sense. So when a character like Sally isn't traumatized after what she experienced, isn't traumatized, and is just she's the sheriff, and I've been looking for him, and it's not effective. Seeing him in person, you would think that she'd be like, oh my. It's like when you see, really a touchy subject, but it's like when someone who has been assaulted and they're forced to face that person in court.
Like in a courtroom. Yeah.
It is to their core. They are dying inside.
Overwhelmed with emotion.
Yeah, because it's beyond awkward, but it's also extremely uncomfortable and painful, and you're reliving that. So I imagined it would have been great if she's like, well, I'm looking for him. I need to kill him. And then she's face to face with him and she can't shoot him because she's frozen in her tracks. She's realizing this is the man that put all this psychological shit in my head. But instead, we don't get that type of character arc. We just get say my name. And
I want to point something out. So for those of us that don't know, which is most of us, given that none of us are Irish and we don't live in Ireland, so we're probably not keeping up with Irish actors.
Wait, you're not Irish?
Right, yeah. I thought. Olwen Fouillère, and I'm probably butchering her name, in 2020 was listed as the 22nd greatest Irish actor of all time.
Okay. Who is that? She's
the woman who plays Sally Hardesty.
Oh, okay.
And I say that only because I know if we're saying that, look, if we're saying that this woman is a great actress elsewhere, and I bet Sarah Yarkin is a good actress, and Elsie Fisher, I know for a fact, is a good actress. This script for this movie fucking underserved everyone.
Right.
And
yeah.
I think it's the script almost completely.
It has to be. By no means am I coming after the actors. I'm saying what was given to them, they didn't have a lot to work with.
No, because like you said, the time when Sally sees Leatherface should be like a fucking like a big moment. It should be an important moment. She just like sees him and goes, "I'm gonna go kill him." Stay here. I'll just be right back. Like you'll just be right back. Be right back. What?
Because the movie's on top of that, it is campy. So fine, if we're gonna make it campy, really go there. Really, really have that moment. Like in Freddy versus Jason, where Freddy is finally pulled into the real world, and Jason basically says, "Freddy, what's good?"
Yeah.
And Freddy looks at him kind of like, "Oh shit, I'm not in my playing field anymore. Now we're in Jason's world." And so it's that face-off moment of them looking at each other, like one-upping each other, like two dudes about to, throw down.
Right.
Give me that then. Give me that moment of Sally walking through the house and then Leatherface just turns the corner down the hallway. And it's that, like you said, that music sting and them just eyeing each other down. And if you've been waiting for this moment, I really want to see you go there, as opposed to just pointing a gun at his head and he's not even looking at you.
Nope. He's in his own catatonic state, or in who knows what's going on. Yeah, he ignores her and just walks off.
He really does. And she's like, "Say my name."
So here's how I would have written this movie. This is the end of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The movies end here. Sally kills Leatherface. But they kill one another by doing the dual chain. Like she gets him with a chainsaw, he gets her with a chainsaw, and then she goes and rips it out of herself or rips it out of him and fucking cuts his head off. And that's how the movies end. Like why are they sleeping on killing these people? Like why do we need more Leatherface? Like fucking kill him. Just be done. You know what? Actually, here's a better way of putting it. If this is what you're gonna give us, fucking kill him.
Yeah,
I'm done. Kill Leatherface. Maybe we don't need these kinds of movies anymore. Maybe we don't need slasher movies driven by these old school slashers that don't have any way of getting back in touch with the current audience.
They are too afraid.
This ain't it.
They're too afraid. They're afraid of not furthering a franchise and banking in, because the Suicide Squad did not give a shit. It killed off its characters. You know what I mean? Because
there's always more.
Because there's always more. But on top of that, it's like we got to know these characters and they did not mind killing them off.
Right.
And no part of them was like, well, then if we kill this character off, look at Peacemaker. Oh, well, he survived. But you know what I mean? They weren't afraid to go there.
Bad example.
Yeah. But, for Leatherface, go there. Really fucking go there and have him, dead.
But they did go there. They killed Sally. Fan favorite Sally Hardesty.
But see, that's another thing that was not believable. And the first time I watched it, I called it out. Everyone in the room was like, yeah, why the fuck would you think he was dead? When he has literally taken stabbings, to the gut and whatnot. And he's been shot with a fucking shotgun. A sawed-off shotgun. That should have killed him already. So what made these girls think that whacking him in the chin with a chainsaw was going to, when he gets whacked and falls in the water? It's not like a chainsaw doesn't work that way. It's not an axe.
Right. It doesn't have a sharp edge.
Yeah, you have to really work with it. So
it's serrated like a saw. It's a moving saw. It's not a sword. It's not a katana.
Yeah.
If they had done that with a katana, they would have cut his face in half.
Yeah, so it's not like they split his head open. They whacked him in the chin and he fell and they're like, we're done. I'm like, you really think so? Because he was able to sustain a lot of injuries. And you
shot a couple times with a shotgun.
Yeah, it's like the Jason remake, the 2009 film, when, she stabs him in the chest with the machete and she's like, go to hell or something. And I'm like, that's not going to... Jason fans are not stupid. We know that's not going to kill him. So it was no shock that he jumps out at the end and pulls her in the water. We were like, yo, no shit. So
remember in the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre with all those jump scares?
No.
Yeah, that's my point.
There were none, you know what I mean? And
there's no
so,
jump scare. There's no final stinger at the end of the movie. Yeah, this is how far we've come, that this movie now has it.
Right. And so, okay, well, that brings me to the ending. First of all, we saw it coming, right?
I didn't see it coming, but that doesn't matter. Like, for me, it was just like, I was just like, at this point, I was like, can this just be over? Like, I didn't care, you know?
He took her head. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, he took the annoying sister's head. They're in their Tesla, and the Tesla's, they punched in the address, and they're driving away.
It's driving itself.
It's driving itself, which I thought was like a little clever. I thought that was a little clever.
No, see, I like that the sister wasn't able to stop it, and the car is taking her away from helping her sister.
Right.
That's cool. But it didn't have any impact. I mean, I did go, oh shit, that he, sawed her head off, but I wasn't like, oh no, they got her. It's just like,
she's such a memorable character. You didn't want her to die.
It's like, I don't care.
Well, and the other thing is, I don't know if you noticed in that scene, but like the take that they used is like the worst take, because she like jiggles her body before she's dead. And it's like the timing is all off. She's like, ugh, and it's like, no, you're not dead yet. But she does like the I'm dead thing. Like the body jiggle, like she's been decapitated. She does it like a good second before he actually decapitates her. It's so lazy.
I wanted him to throw the head at the sister. That would have been great. Because okay, can we talk about that?
No, because every Leatherface movie has to end with him doing the chainsaw dance.
Oh, that looked ridiculous. And but speaking of ridiculous, how funny! Now I loved it though. It was so ridiculous that I appreciated it. When he's standing at the top and the girl looks up and he throws the sledgehammer at her chest, and it literally takes her off the ground and throws her into the fucking the crawl space of the house, to where she gets covered in literal shit. Was that poop?
Yeah, that was poop.
That was poop. But that was another thing. I was like, wouldn't that have killed her if it was hard enough to throw her off the ground and slam her into the second floor? She'd have been dead. That would have stopped her heart, crushed her chest plate, just anything. But like I said, this movie has a lot of really unbelievable moments. Like you said, she was already shaking before the chainsaw even got to her throat.
Yeah. Well, that's just an editing choice. I don't know why they use that take. That's a real bad take to use. But like, I've seen the ending of the movie a couple times now because I keep watching it to like reinforce that I'm seeing it. Like the timing is off, but the timing is like really off because they know they had to put a visual effect in there of her head coming off, and it's like they didn't time it correctly, so they have him cutting her head off, and the body like shakes. Like it's been like the head's been cut off before the chainsaw's anywhere near her body, and it's like I don't think this is the take you use. Like you could do this over again. Like nobody forced you. You could redo it over and over again. I don't get it.
Yeah,
nitpicking a terrible movie's terrible ending.
Yeah, sure.
Where does the fucking movie go from here? Like what happens from now? Like
I wanted him to throw the head. That would have been great if he had full force chucked the head at her.
Bopped her in the head.
Bopped her in the head, and that sets up.
And then the car drives and explodes.
Yeah, because how funny would that have been? It would.
Well, that's the thing. Like, what? Like, ultimately, that's the question that I have here. Is like at the end of this movie, Leatherface has Reign of Harlow. He has all these dead bodies everywhere that are going to be attracting the buzzards.
Mm-hmm.
And people know that people have died in Harlow now.
Mm-hmm.
So where does this go from here? Because like that's my question. Because
he went home. Did you see
but that's scene? Still in Harlow though.
Right. I'm just saying the scene was a post-credit scene.
Right, because it's a Marvel movie now. Everything's a Marvel movie too, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Not lamenting Marvel movies. I love Marvel movies as much as the next person. But like every movie doesn't need a post-credit sting.
Right. That's like in the HBO Max show Hacks, where a character asks, who watches Marvel movies anyways? And the character goes, literally everybody. So,
yeah, exactly.
So we are all fully aware of...
which is why everybody knows now that there might be a fucking post-credit scene. And in this movie, there is.
It traumatized me because now I sit around waiting. I'm like, maybe there is one. I don't fucking know.
Right.
But this one had one. I did not know until like a few days later. It's just a shot of him walking home. So, okay.
Who cares?
That's where I was confused through the movie, because the inside of the orphanage the structure looked exactly like his house. So throughout the whole film, I kept questioning. I was like, was the house turned into an orphanage? Was this town built around the house? Because the staircase is in the same place, and the rooms and all this shit. I'm sure that was just me. No, I'm sure nobody else was thinking that. And so when he finally it showed him walking home. I was like, oh, okay. Why wasn't he there to begin with? Why was he like stuck with this old lady in a ghost town that no one's at, unless he was scared Sally was going to go there? I don't know. But like,
yeah, I don't.
Or he didn't know. He wasn't even thinking that, because he didn't even know who the hell she was.
Right.
So
he couldn't take care of himself. That's what I don't get either. I mean, the Leatherface character is so uninteresting now. Like where he is now, like this is the new starting place. This is where they go from here if they want to continue this story.
Are we going to retcon this one too? Because
they're going to retcon the movie that they just made.
Because 3D did it, and don't even get me started on 3D. Equally as bad in my opinion, but I know you said you kind of liked it.
Hey, it's okay. It's better than this movie.
It didn't do anything for me. And hearing
this movie literally didn't do anything.
Hearing a character who's not from Texas say "Welcome to Texas, motherfucker" pissed me off. It's like, you're not even from here.
That's a you thing.
I don't know. You don't even go here. Like, what are you talking about?
You're not from this school. It's like, you and I together could have made a better movie.
I'm sure you're convinced.
I think you and I would have been able to write a better script. How's that?
I mean, I'm sure I would have been able to come up with better ideas, but what horror fan doesn't think?
But better ideas are the starting place of a script.
True, very true.
All you need is someone who knows how to write, and you can turn those ideas into a script.
Well, here's a theory that I saw online. Some people are requesting, that this be the last of the requels, because it's just not going to happen.
Yes, I'm trying to make this a thing.
It's just not going to work. We should continue Jessica Biel's plot. Part of me is like, that would be really cool. But the other part of me is like, I love that movie so much. I don't want to see anything ruined. But then again, that movie will always be there, so you're not really ruining the movie.
Right. Don't be one of those Star Wars fans.
You're
ruining it. Like, who cares?
It's like, no, you can go back and watch the one you like.
Yeah, these movies haven't been erased out of your mind just because something else came out after the fact.
Yeah, trust me, I am not one of those people. But no,
that's a horror fan. That is a man baby horror fan thing too.
Yeah, you've ruined Halloween. It's the first one is still there. Just go.
Also,
watch
for the
it.
record, like Halloween ruined itself already. Like it's ebbs and flows. Like I don't like. It's like anything else. Like I didn't like Scream 4 that much. You didn't like the Scream TV show. You could have said at one point they ruined Scream. But yet here we are with Scream 5.
Yeah, it's still there.
And Halloween 4, 5, and 6 exist.
Yeah.
And those movies, I don't think anybody is like championing Halloween 4 as anything. But yet Halloween and Halloween Kills exist.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't. I don't get it.
Look, at the end of the day, it's
up and down. It's up and down. Like some things are good, some things are bad. Somebody's vision is going to be different than somebody else's.
Right, and at the end of the day, it's not that serious. They're just movies. They're just entertainment.
Yeah,
but we find passion behind things that we love. So I think that's where it comes from. Because just as easy as I can say they're just movies, I find myself becoming passionate about films as well, because it's something that either you grew up with or you just really entertained by. So
it's just a movie thing for me that always has felt. It's like, it would be like someone saying to you, it's just music. Like, it's not though. Like, it's like, I watch movies every day. I have to, because that's what my job requires. You listen to music all the time because that's what your job requires. Like that.
Well,
like,
it's the nihilist in me. You have to remember is that at the end.
No, I get it. Like it is just a movie. Like ultimately at the end of the day, but like the way I look at the problem is the way I look at it is just a movie. But at the same time, like if not for movies, I would not know anybody that I know. I would never have worked with you. And so like it is just movies, but like at the same time, it's like.
I understand.
I gotta get excited about something because
I understand.
There ain't much to get excited about outside of that. Like
I fully understand because when I was explaining to my girlfriend about the difference between American tacos in the Crunch, the you can buy the kit now at like the store,
sure,
with just ground meat and lettuce, and Then you can get real tacos, which I become really passionate about the differences. And my girlfriend had the nerve to tell me it's just food. And I'm like, it is not just food.
It's not just food.
It is culture.
It is.
Don't fuck with me.
Don't put more on my tacos than some onion and cilantro and a lime. I don't need more than that.
Yeah. So like,
unless I do, and then I'll ask for something else. But
at the end of the day, yes, physically and literally, it is just food, but there's more to it. That means a lot to a lot of people.
Right.
So
your heart is just an organ, but yet without your heart, you would die.
Right. So yes, it is just a movie, but a lot of people are really passionate. And you want to know why they're passionate? Because they care. So us sitting here shitting on the newest Texas Chainsaw is only because I care. Is because I love where it could go. It has so much potential. It's like the kid that keeps saying, I can't do this. I want to be the parent that's like, no, you can though. That's the thing. You can do it. You just really don't want to. Or you think you can't and you want to, because clearly they want to make these movies.
Right.
They just don't know how.
And I believe Fede Alvarez loves Texas Chainsaw, as I'm sure you do. Like, he has a track record of knowing how to work in the horror industry. He has a track record of good horror movies. Don't Breathe, for all of its problems,
love it.
It's still okay. Like, I'm not as big of a fan as some people, but I think it's just fine.
But maybe the trailer was just so fucking terrifying. So I was
professional
ready.
Teenager Dylan Minnette is in that movie.
Yeah, and I forgot her name, but she's in Evil Dead as Mia.
Oh yeah. And Stephen Lang is in that movie.
I liked the setup of that movie because it's like, why won't he die? That's it's is he just really fucking powerful? I don't know. But then that newest one came out. I haven't seen that one. I don't think I want to, unless we're gonna review it.
Don't Breathe 2. I didn't like the first one enough to watch the second one.
He's an anti-hero in the second one, so
nah, I'm good. No, I don't want to know about an anti-hero who was fucking turkey basting women. Like, you can't. Yeah. Like, how the fuck are you an anti-hero now?
I can't sympathize with that. And even though it's like, well, yeah, but they broke into his house. Yeah, but sure, I get that. He could have just called the cops. I don't know, told them to leave forcefully. But when it comes down to restraining a woman and forcing her to bear his children, you have lost all of my sympathy. I don't give a fuck what happens to you. I hope you die. I hope you get pregnant. And he doesn't, though. He's alive at the end. I think that movie's really dark. Maybe that's where the Texas Chainsaw movie, it should have that kind of vibe of just like,
what, Don't Breathe?
Yeah, just a little randomness in there, but like, it was a dark film.
You know what? Here's you know what? Let me pitch to you my Texas Chainsaw idea.
Okay, start for real.
Okay, so here we go. No, just so let's. Okay, so the requirement in my mind here is I cannot go back to The Well. I can't go to Jessica Biel. I can't do any of that. All I can do is use Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original, as a starting point. But this is going to be. This idea that I have is going to take it in a different direction, but at the same time stay truthful to the original. So you have a group of friends. Their occupation doesn't matter, but in my story, they're going to be ghost hunters. Okay.
Ooh.
And so let's take the idea that this is a Ed Gein character, because that's what everybody's like. Oh my god, did you know the original one's based off of Ed? It's based off of Ed Gein, like in the most. It's like saying Buffalo Bill's based off of Ed Gein. It's like there are some things like he skinned women, but it's like Buffalo Bill was much more menacing than Ed Gein ever had any right to be. It was
right.
As a mentally unwell 40-year-old man living in a house with his mom's corpse, like that's problematic, isn't it? That's scary on its own, but like that's
also where Psycho comes from.
Right, exactly. So you have this group of friends, 4 to 5 friends, and they hear about this house where this serial killer used to skin people, similar to Ed Gein, right? They go to the house, it's in the middle of nowhere, they set up a seance, they do the seance, and in doing the seance, I can't figure it out in my mind where I would want to go, but I would want to inject this with some of the supernatural. But not the supernatural in the way where it's guaranteed the supernatural, but it's like it could be the supernatural. So the entire movie, they're trying to figure out if one of them is copycatting Leatherface, or if in doing their seance, they actually conjured up the soul of this serial killer. And the entire movie is just them running around this kind of like compound, this farmhouse, running away from what they think is another, Leatherface, but it could be somebody else who's a copycat, some other, exterior character. Right. And I think that's a way you do this, because take Leatherface the man out of it and just make it like Leatherface the thing. Mm-hmm. And then it's Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and then at the end of the movie you can have the character actually be possessed by Leatherface and become the new Leatherface, or you could just end it there and it's one singular movie. But like, in my mind, that's a more interesting premise, because it kind of cuts to the idea that we're talking about, which is you can't show this guy be shot 1,000,000 times and us not say, what the fuck, how is he not dead? Yeah. So maybe it's like pseudo paranormal. Maybe there is like a little bit of a paranormal bent to it.
Yeah. It could, I mean, yeah.
Is that more interesting than what we got? Like, just, it's something different, at least. It's completely different.
It would have to be different, because I think where the series fails is that they're all the same movie. It's
they go to the middle of nowhere and a guy kills them.
Yeah.
You know what? Take my idea and put it in the middle of a city. Have it be like, oh, this guy was in an apartment complex and he was, they were calling him Leatherface because he was doing all sorts of weird shit, and it takes place in an apartment complex. I don't know. Just do something else more than what they've done.
Yeah, we're too attached to the farmhouse and all this shit. It can still be involved. But I do like the idea of maybe, even if not paranormal investigators, if just like podcasters or TV show
true crimers, somebody that would have a reason to be there intentionally.
Yeah, as opposed
is kind of my idea.
Yeah, as opposed to just teenagers driving through. Hey, can I use your phone? And then we all get killed.
Which is scary. Like, we've all been there. We've all broken down on the side of the highway. Like, I get what they were mining, but like in this day and age, like, it's
kind of like House of a Thousand Corpses, because they're driving across, writing a book about weird sideshow attractions or whatever, and it gets them into trouble.
I feel bad for characters that are like put upon in these situations, but like, I think it's a much more interesting writing exercise to give the characters a reason to be there. Mm-hmm. And like give them a reason to understand the situation they're in and figure out a way to work outside of it. So that's what I'm saying. Like my Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie that I make, if I would ever make one, would be a singular movie. At the end, it's over. That's it. Yep. Maybe there's like a little teaser for something else, but like it would be a teaser in a way where it's like, if nothing happens, great.
And it would also be a great opportunity to create that very claustrophobic situation of, I put myself here. I wanted to know way too much.
Right.
And I stuck my nose in where it doesn't belong. And now I can't leave. It's very American Horror Story Asylum. The Sarah Paulson's character is a reporter, and she wants to know about the mistreatments of psychiatric patients, and the nuns aren't having it.
Right.
So she becomes a fucking patient, and she's not allowed to leave. And it's stuff like that is always more disturbing to me than someone who just so happened to stumble upon.
Right. And that's where my idea is like rooted in the idea of like, they're there on purpose. They're there by intention. And so in my mind, like, that's a much more interesting setup, because it gives the characters, like, you already understand that they know what's going on. So it's not like a surprise to them.
Right. And Leatherface shouldn't be, and I know that this is controversial, but I don't think Leatherface should be the main antagonist in any of these films. I think that's another thing that made this movie feel a little weird, is that he was very standalone, because the villains are really his family or whoever is associated with him.
Arlie Ermey is horrifying in that 2003 movie.
Terrifying. And in the original, it was, the grandpa, or no, the dad, and
Chop Top.
Right, the sequel. And
I guess he's similar character in the first movie.
Right, Leatherface is just there to be, he's kind of their bitch. He's kind of their bitch, and he's an element of danger. You know what I mean? Is you have to do what we do, or we sick Leatherface on you. He's our pit bull.
Yeah.
And
he's the muscle. I mean, he's just the muscle. He's the one who can lift the dead bodies up, and he's the one who can move the dead bodies around, and he can chase people down. Like, that's
so it would be a great situation where interviewers or podcasters, whatever, they're investigating. They really want to know the story behind Leatherface. Whatever happened to Leatherface? And we heard there was a guy in Texas that skins people alive, and chainsaws were involved, and cannibalism was involved. And that's why we're here, and we're asking around, and the town is telling them, you need to get the fuck out of here. mind your own business. How about that? This town has heard enough of it. We're sick of it. But little do we know.
Ooh, that's
family.
good. Ooh, that's a good idea. Ooh, you've tapped into something even better. Set it in a town, and then we have the massacre part, and you have, like, they reconjured up Leatherface. And this town is like, why are you doing this? Like, go away.
Yeah.
And we don't get that in Halloween. We don't get that in Halloween. They could have gone there with the new Halloween. Because, like, there's the whole podcaster angle.
Yeah, we've heard all of this shit, and we are sick to death of it, like... Basically,
we don't sell Leatherface t-shirts. No, we don't sell Leatherface mugs. No, we don't sell fucking chainsaw bottle openers. Like, we want this to go away.
Yeah, and if you came here to use the phone or get some gas, hurry up and get the fuck out of our town, because you're not going to get any type of tourist attraction here. And yet the kids don't leave. You know what I mean? And we do find out that the house where he lived is still owned by someone related to Leatherface, because, like I said, Leatherface doesn't need to be the main villain.
Right. Which is why I was like, make him just a supernatural force, like we talked about in the last episode with Ghostface. Like, at this point, like, that's my headcanon of Ghostface. It's like a thing, like it's an amorphous idea that kind of takes over someone. Like, why not make Leatherface the same thing? Like, that's much scarier than just, we gotta cast another 6'5" white guy to play Leatherface.
Right. They find the thing that fans end up liking and really, really doing, pun intended, an overkill. Like, it's like Leatherface was never the main villain. He was just the guy chasing. It's like in the newer Halloweens when Michael is just massacring everyone. And it's like, that's not what made him scary, though. In the original was just that he was a stalker. He really just, like, the deaths were, once again, was just so that there was an element of danger. But aside from that, he's a phantom-like character who just watches from behind the bush, and you don't know why.
That music, like, it gives you an idea of the kind of character that Michael Myers is like, dun na 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 na. That's not intense. That feels like someone's following you.
Yeah, it's
and
repetitive.
Like you're looking over your shoulder. Like, it's not kill. Like, that's scary. Like,
it's relentless.
Yeah. And that's what Michael Myers is. He's the shape.
He's the shape. He's a relentless force that maybe his intentions aren't even to kill you. That's just so much there. Like I said, that's the part that makes you want to avoid him, is that he could kill you and might, but he's more into taunting you. He's more into hanging the bodies up because they kind of look cool, and I'm going to make sure that spooks you and things like that. But we took all of that away from Michael in the newer ones, minus like the teeth, like tossing the teeth over the in the bathroom scene with the podcaster. That was Michael playing with his victims.
Right. In
this newer one, they really took that element away and just made him a mindless killer. And with Leatherface, I fear that that's the same situation, because Leatherface was never the main villain. And now they're really trying to make him the main villain. And in 2003, it was the sheriff. He was horrifying.
Andrew Biernarsky is great as Leatherface, but Arlie Ermey steals that movie. He's disgusting and horrifying, and he has a badge, which automatically makes him someone you would want to trust. And you find out very slowly that he is anything but the kind of person you'd want to trust. Yeah, which again further reinforces like the sense of dread and hopelessness, because it's like even the cops are in on it.
Yeah, because Leatherface is just there to catch the food.
Right. Yeah,
doesn't
exactly.
Say anything. Doesn't do it. He's
who knows if he has any like reason to hate these people? He just does it.
He just does it because he feels maybe he has to. I don't know. That's all he's been trained to do.
But then in this movie, it's like he has a grudge.
You killed my grandma or whatever.
You killed whatever, surrogate mother, whatever. Which, again, makes zero fucking sense. Like, I don't understand why this is a sequel. Because the choices that they've made work against the pre-established character that we have been informed about for the last 30-plus years, about this 50 years.
Yeah.
Like,
it doesn't feel like the same Leatherface. It just...
No, but it's supposed to be, though.
But when it's supposed to be, you gotta try. It's like watching Freaky Friday. Like when you see, you get to know Jamie Lee Curtis as the mom, and you notice her personality, and then you tell Lindsay Lohan, they didn't tell her act like that character. They just say act like a mom.
Right.
So I don't buy that it's Jamie Lee Curtis trapped in there. Right. It just feels like Lindsay Lohan acting like a stuck-up mom.
Right.
And that's not what Jamie Lee's character was.
So it's lazy writing.
It is. So that's where it's like, really, really try to make it work, because they did the same thing to Laurie Strode. I don't think she would be this gun-toting, booby-trapped anything. I think she would have been an isolating, yeah, that happened to me. I've just been really trying to forget about it.
And that's not subjectively you're saying that. That's an objective criticism. That's
Sure.
100% objective. Because the evidence that they've given us in the other movies would not lead us to believe that's the way her character would react, which is an objective choice. Not I chose to, make these ghost hunters go do this. It's like, no, objectively, using the previous films that we've seen, this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and
that's a problem.
She doesn't act like Laurie Strode either.
From the other movies.
Yeah.
This is not our opinion. This is just like,
I'm just saying,
looking where the character goes from A to B, all of a sudden they're lost. Like, what?
I forget that it's even supposed to be Laurie from the original. The only time that it kind of came was in 2018. She says, congratulations on making the honor roll or whatever. I was on the honor roll. I'm like, well, yeah, I believe that because Laurie was a bookworm.
Right.
Other than that, she didn't talk or act like Laurie Strode. She acted like Sarah Connor.
But not nearly as Sarah Connor is not very successful either.
No,
Man, the only one that's been successful is fucking Sidney Prescott.
Yeah, and that's not to take away, because I do enjoy seeing Laurie be a badass. I like that. I want it. But it has to make sense.
Right.
Part of her has to still be scared.
They wanted a revenge fantasy. That's all they wanted. Like, those Halloween movies just feel like a revenge fantasy.
How many times is she going to say his name? It's like, hello, Michael. Goodbye, Michael. I'm here, Michael. I'll find you, Michael. Where are you, Michael? I'll kill you, Michael. I'm coming for you, Michael. It's like, for fuck's sake, like, can we get on with this shit? Because Michael's not even looking for you.
Right. You're looking. Yeah, who's antagonizing who now?
Yeah, I saw on Twitter somebody was like, I'm starting to think that Laurie Strode's the one just starting shit with Michael at this point. Like, if we're still like doing all of this shit.
Well, and we come back to this movie full circle with that. It's like, why is Sally here? She didn't have to show up. And if she did show up, why didn't she just kill him immediately? If her whole goal was to kill him, she didn't. She's a dummy character. She's dumb. Her character is written like an idiot. And
has Leatherface been killing people since?
No, because apparently something that Alice Krieg has been doing has kept his beast in check. I don't know. That's the thing. Like, I don't even understand what his motivation is, other than the fact that Alice Krieg dies. That must be his singular motivation for killing all of these people, because he doesn't know what they're doing. He doesn't know that they're taking the town. He doesn't know any of that. He doesn't hear that.
Okay,
he can't know any of that.
That's fine and all. But if this is supposed to be Leatherface from the original, it's supposed to be the same guy.
Which it is.
Yeah. I feel like he would have been more emotional about her dying, because he doesn't speak. He moans and he cries and he whimpers and
he pig squeals
and he paces and he rocks back and forth, because in the original, he only knocked out those teenagers that walked into his house because he didn't know where the fuck they were coming from. Who are they? You know what I mean? And that's why, once he's done and he throws the girl in the freezer or whatever, he's like looking out the window and like shutting the blinds and stuff like that. And he's sitting there contemplating, like, what the hell is going on? He's a confused character who completely relies on whoever is taking care of him. And that's why they have such power over him. So fine, I'll buy that this woman has some kind of bond with him, because maybe he's emotionally stunted. But for him to just her die and him to just be angry and I'm going to stab you in the throat feels out of character for that Leatherface. I feel like he would have been really physically, emotionally distraught, and we would have been able to see how that really affected him, as opposed to just him wearing her face. I don't think that the Leatherface that loved that woman would wear her face.
Right. Yeah.
Or maybe he would, because in the sequel to the original Texas Chainsaw 2, they kept the fucking hitchhiker, they kept his body and they played with it like a puppet. That's what Bill Moseley's character does.
Yeah.
With what was that?
At the great the Oingo Boingo bridge scene.
Yeah.
My favorite scene in that entire movie.
It's great. That is the longest bridge I have ever fucking seen.
Yeah. I love that scene though, with the dancing corpse and
which is
no one lives
hitchhiker.
No one lives forever. Yeah, it's the hitchhiker from the first movie.
Okay, so fine. Cannibalization of your loved ones makes sense. People do it in real life anyways. They stuff their loved ones and have them sit at their own wake as if they're at the party. It's creepy. So, okay, fine. I buy that. I'm just saying, if he really, really loved her, that Leatherface from the original would have cried and we would have seen it.
I agree.
And so for him to be a very just quiet, menacing, dark character doesn't make sense to me. So it didn't. That's why it didn't feel like the same Leatherface.
Well, I don't think it felt like the same Leatherface for me either in any shape, because the original Leatherface was never as brutal as this. You want to inject brutality into it, fine. But again, this is not Ghostface. Ghostface made sense, like, okay, the new killers are brutal because they're raised on the new media and they've got to be more brutal. They've got to one up. Like, that makes sense. In the scope of the movie, it makes sense because that's the motivation for the characters in the film. Here,
Billy says it himself.
Like,
he says the movies make killers more creative.
Yeah. And so in this movie, it's like, why is Leatherface doing any of this? Like, should be like a 70-year-old man. He's not physically able to do any of the things that they're wanting him to do. And then, he ends up becoming just another Michael Myers, just another Jason, just another, hulking, brooding slasher who gets shot a million times and doesn't die. And we as the audience just go, I guess that's because we've been conditioned to assume that's how these movies work. There's no actual reason. I mean, you get shot a bunch of times, you physically can't stand up, which is why I brought up the whole turn Leatherface into more of an idea, less a person, because then it's like, well, it's using, like you said, though, like he's using the body as a vessel, like the Michael Myers thing, like, well, Jason's body at some point is a fucking rotted corpse, and they take the mask off, and it's literally a zombie underneath.
Yeah, because he's a Deadite.
Right, he literally is, yeah. But also, why not, if you're going to explain everything else, don't not explain him getting shot a bunch of times and we're not going to explain that. Like, why?
Yeah, because then, the creators are always the first to be like, well, Leatherface stands on his own because he's the only one that's based in reality. Is like, is he though? Because he's been shot to hell and is still fucking walking around. The guy isn't possessed, and the guy isn't a vessel of evil. The guy is not Jason Voorhees or Michael Myers. So what is his excuse?
He's never been painted with that brush in any of these movies.
Yeah. So what is that's why in the remake, she chops off his arm. It fucking affected him. You know what I mean? Obviously.
Yeah. And they try to fucking make him a sympathetic character, and that's the nuts part. Is on top of everything else, they still try to make him sympathetic in this movie. And they try to make him sympathetic in all of them, almost. The second movie in the scene where she's got the chainsaw and he's doing the thing with the chainsaw, and you're like, oh, this guy's just like this misunderstood weirdo. In the 03 one, they kind of do the same thing where he's like, well, he was picked on all the time, and he was disfigured and disformed, and so that led to him being this way, and all this other stuff. But in this, it's like, I guess that woman dying was enough to make him go fucking ape shit. Though he's been here for 50 years just doing nothing, I guess. Right.
Which is why it's like, how many people has he killed since, though? Because
zero, I guess.
People around him have been dying that are his family, I suppose. And they didn't kill this woman. She had a heart attack or something, and I don't know.
It is the definition of lazy. Yeah. And it is the definition of riding someone else's coattails to try to make a movie that is, this is the true sequel. It's like, no, this is everybody. The only true sequels that exist, I guess, are the ones you say that are true. So I guess this is a true sequel until the next true sequel comes out. Well, I mean, they've already done it twice, and they did it in Halloween twice already. So
yeah. Just remake the son of a bitch, and if you want to keep going back to the farmhouse, you're gonna have to just remake it, because we can't keep doing the same thing over and over and over.
No,
because it's all the same thing. It's just a matter of who did it better.
Right. Exactly. This movie, as far as I'm concerned, it's almost a remake of the original. Yeah. It's just kill a bunch of people. There you go. You've mined nothing, you've asked nothing, you've answered nothing, and ultimately nobody cares.
Yeah.
I don't know, when this movie was over and it got to the credits, all I could think was, man, these credits are really stylish. They were. The credits are great for this movie. They are. They really are.
Yeah. I mean,
you like that? At least the credits were good.
I got to enjoy a couple cocktails while watching Texas Chainsaw, because I knew I would have to. And it was a nice Paloma.
That might be the best way to enjoy this movie, is inebriated. I would say skip it. For me, it's either skip it or watch it. And skipping it or watching it, in my mind, doesn't... like skip it, I think denotes quality more than watch it does. Cause like I say watch it for bad shit all the time. Cause like plenty of bad things are entertaining, which is why skip it or watch it in my mind has like, it almost has like no rating. There's no rating system there. It's just like, should you spend your time watching this? Because I can't really make a quality statement on your behalf. I can just say how how the movie made me feel subjectively, and then objectively point out like editing problems, screenwriting problems. But for me, it's like skip it means I don't think you should spend an hour and a half watching it, or your money, however you want to look at it. Watch it means I feel like there's something worth seeing here, even if the movie's bad. I think for me,
skip it.
Skip it. There's one scene that you can see online. It's the bus scene. You could just go on Netflix and go to the part, watch that scene, and then turn it off. And I think if you watch that bus scene and you're like, I want to watch more, you're probably this film's target audience. For me, if I had seen the bus scene, I would have been like, I don't know. It's okay.
Yeah. So you know what? I'm going to change my answer then, because I agree with you. If it's on Netflix, but guess what else is on Netflix?
Yeah,
this one.
The 03 one, exactly.
So I'm going to say skip it and watch the 03 one because it's on the same platform.
Yeah, and that is ultimately where I come back to this. It's like, for me, it's a skip. Go watch that movie. Like, that's the truth. If you want to watch some Texas Chainsaw that's not the original and it's not the second one, the really good actual sequel to the original, 03.
Yeah. Yeah, watch the 03 one. If you're dying to see this one, watch the 03 one. If you've heard that you really need to see this one, watch the 03 one. If you're just curious, watch the 03 one, because the 03 one is going to give you everything that you want this movie to give you, because that movie's the new one is not going to give you any of it. It's not going to. There's nothing scary about it. There's no character development. The characters are obnoxious. Nothing makes sense. And
not only are the characters obnoxious, they were written that way. They were written to be grating and obnoxious and so unlikable. They were written with such a broad brush that they were all written as unlikable millennials who need to die.
Yeah. And I think the 2003 one really set the bar for following Texas Chainsaw movies, which is why they keep just either doing prequels or requels or whatever, because they just can't touch it. So there's formulaic shit going on in the 2003 one that just works. And this one does not work. And like you said way earlier, this could have been any other movie.
Yeah. Could have been anything.
And I like that you said it could have been Jeepers Creepers, because that would have been great. Another bus stuck in a ghost town with a bunch of millennials who all have an opinion about something. But none of that shit matters right now, because the same fucking thing is coming after all of us. And that is the creeper. That's about it. That's it. It could have been any movie.
You think they should make a meta Jeepers Creepers movie?
Fucking do it.
Do you think they should do that? Where it's like, I mean, we went
Nightmare
to go look for the. Yeah, I know. I think the problem with Jeepers Creepers is just you can't touch that shit because of the director of that movie. You can't. No, you can't. I will never talk about those movies on a podcast because of the fucking director being a child molester, actual sex offender. By the way,
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah.
Oh, well, that's gross. Well, okay, well, now I can't.
Yep, yeah, which is why, like, James A. Janice has never talked about Jeepers Creepers. That's why, like, Jeepers Creepers 3 coming out was this whole hullabaloo, because people were like, don't put it in theaters, because the guy is an actual sex offender. This isn't like a Woody Allen thing, where it's like questions were being asked, but no evidence. So, go wherever you will with Woody Allen. Like, this guy, like, he did it. He was found guilty. He stood trial. It's a fact.
God damn. Well, you know what? I'm glad I don't have those in my collection.
Which also puts the initial movie's kind of weird incest stuff in
Jeepers, Jeepers Creepers. Oh my God. Dude.
If you've never seen Jeepers Creepers, the first movie has some like weird incest shit that like is kind of
into his sister.
Like subtextual, yeah.
Oh well, who wouldn't be into Justin Long though?
Yeah, I was going to say the sister not so much, but Justin Long on the other hand,
that was my sexual awakening. Justin
Long's a good-looking guy.
Yeah, my girlfriend would argue that.
And if leaked photos on the internet are any indication, dude's swinging a fucking.
What is wrong with you?
Swinging a baseball bat, bro.
I'm talking about his
Louisville
face.
Slugger, baby.
I'm talking about his handsomeness. You're
I'm just commenting on what I've seen on the internet.
Well, you're sick. You are sick.
Correct.
That's more disturbing than this new Texas.
Oh no,
movie.
it's not.
Well, the Creeper was kind of a cannibal too, wasn't he?
Yeah, he ate people's body parts.
Yeah, and then became them.
I would contend Jeepers Creepers might actually be a better Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie than this movie.
Yeah, because Justin Long's just skinned body hanging there at the end. Let me tell you something that both confused me sexually and yet gave me so many nightmares.
Oh, that's an effective ending, man.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying it was my awakening. I was like, how old was I when that came out? Jesus, that movie came out a long time ago. It was like
03, 04, maybe earlier than that.
I thought it was like 2001, but you're probably right.
Could be.
My God, but I didn't.
The Justin Long getting to play the Creeper in that scene, by the way, because it's his eyes.
Oh yeah, at the end.
So he's in the Creeper makeup at the end.
Oh, is he really?
I believe so. Yeah.
I did not know that. See, there's a lot of shit I don't know about that movie, but
I really love that movie. It pains me that the director of that movie is such a piece of garbage. Because for me, Jeepers Creepers is a perfect example of how you do something like this. Something like this being a slasher movie, right? You create a character that's interesting, you give a backstory, but you don't give it away completely, and you have sympathetic characters who you are genuinely disappointed to see don't make it through the end of the movie.
Right, and it brings in characters that are not in it for that long, and yet you immediately like them, like the psychic lady that came in. I loved her.
I hear you screaming in the dark.
Yeah, she's great. Look at those eyes. Those eyes that she had. She was fantastic. And I love that the Creeper did not touch her. I don't know why. She started praying.
That's why. The power of Jesus.
It could be. I don't fucking know. It's like,
Well, the Creeper was like a demon or something, right? Because he's like this ancient.
He has to be.
He's like an ancient evil. Again, see what I mean? Like, if you're gonna do this, make it supernatural. Like, what is the Creeper? Who knows? It's a monster that dresses like a man. Like, that's all I know.
Yeah, because that worked. She started praying. I'm not a religious person. I'm just saying she started praying, and it fucking worked. I was like, maybe in this universe, he's some sort of evil that is obviously offended by crucifixes and prayer. I like things like that. Even in like Leprechaun in the Hood. I don't know if you've ever seen that, where Leprechaun goes up against the psychic lady,
Yeah.
And he's all angry. He's like, it's a witch, and she, starts throwing her powers at him.
Right.
It's ridiculous, but part of me is like loving it, like a leprechaun versus a witch. Of course, she eats it in the end, but.
Well,
anyways,
that's the thing to round this episode out. That is the thing I think that we should start moving towards, as opposed to dealing with these movies where it's chasing helpless millennials around. Leatherface versus a human being fighting, and that's them going back and forth throughout the entire movie. Give me that.
Yeah,
I'm sick and tired of this. I'm just sick and tired of this shit where it's everybody's scared all
helpless.
The time. Sidney Prescott in Scream 5 goes, "Let's go fucking murder someone." Mm-hmm. And I was like, yes, you've been through so much at this point. Fucking get your guns, show up with your guns, ready to kill people.
Yeah, especially
cut the shit.
Seriously, because in Halloween Kills, it had the attitude of we're gonna find them, and nobody did. Nobody stood a chance. Everybody got their asses handed to them, and then for them to
in the stupidest way possible.
And they brought back legendary characters to off them without a fighting chance. The only person that got a hit at Michael was Kyle Richards, and she whacked him in the face twice, and that was it. I was like, I really want to see somebody give it to him. The girl dressed as a nurse, this was in my mind as I was like, what the fuck is actually happening? She had a loaded gun and could have shot him up. I wanted to see her really give it to him because he just killed her husband. And instead, she's just unloading from what's felt like a mile away, only to be offed herself by herself.
Right.
So
the gun turned on you thing.
Yeah, nobody has a fighting chance. And that is what I seek in these movies. I want to see a character really, really give a fight. I want to see them fight for their life, as opposed to just being a helpless, screaming character who's just I'm not saying they can't be scared. Of course I'm scared, and my life is being threatened here, but what is your fighting instinct? You know what I mean? And nobody has that in Halloween Kills, and definitely nobody has it here in Texas Chainsaw 2022.
The only one who does is Richter.
Who the hell's Richter?
He's the guy. He's the redneck.
Oh, for fuck's
He's the
sake.
only one in this movie who, like, doesn't just get his ass handed to him by Leatherface.
That's because he's the local redneck, and he's not. You know what? I'll give him that. Like, shit. At least he had the balls to do it. Like,
Because, you and I both know that if he had had Leatherface in the position that those two chicks at the end of the film had, he would have killed him.
yeah.
He wouldn't have been like, I'm going to hit him with a chainsaw and let him sink into the pool. Like, nah, I'm going to, like, fucking shoot him a million times. Like, make sure he's dead.
Can we
Because
also
if you've heard the things he's done, you don't want him to get, like, you shouldn't want him to get back up. Because if he gets back up, you're not going to have a good time.
Yeah.
Which
You
is
have
like,
to make sure.
Which, like, goes against what we talked about in the Scream episode where it was like, Dewey was so fucking stupid. But
To go back.
But at the same time, like, you understand why.
It was
'Cause it's
stupid and smart at the same
right,
time.
because it's like, I want this to be over with. This needs to be done. I'm not scared of you.
Yeah.
And that's, like, as an adult now, the last thing I would do if I were in one of these positions would be cowering in a corner. Because, like, I'm going to die one way or another is what's been made readily apparent if I'm in one of these scenarios.
Yeah.
So better go out fighting on my feet than crouched in a corner or sitting in a car hiding when he comes and drags me out and brutalizes me in the middle of the street. Because that's what happens in this movie. You have a bunch of millennials on a bus getting brutalized when all they had to do was fight back.
Yeah.
They could have overpowered him. Yeah, holy shit.
He's an
like
old
20
man.
people. Yeah. He's an old fucking man.
And all, and it took what did she have, like a corkscrew or something like that?
Yeah, like a corkscrew with a chainsaw on it.
Yeah, stabbed him in the arm. Okay, there's something, but I mean, we really had a fighting chance here. Really, really had a fighting chance. And nobody ever takes advantage. And I know that it does also play into that, like, toxic fan behavior of, like, we watch movies and always think to ourselves, if that was me, I would have done it this way. And so I will take into account that being put in a situation like that probably stunts you. You know what I mean? You're caught off guard. But you can't tell me that there isn't a part of you that would be willing to grab a baseball bat and beat an intruder. Or, even in Halloween Kills, the older woman who's she gets stabbed in the throat with, like, a light bulb.
She gets brutalized. Boy.
She opened the door, though. So why didn't she go? You know what I'm saying? Like, just to be a helpless... Oh, she would have been easily my favorite character if I knew she said, fuck this, even though my husband's being killed, and I'm gone. And then it would be like a great, what was the kid's name in the first one who, like, ran out when he was told to run? He just ran. He said,
Tommy. He's like, go to the...
No. In the 2018 one.
Oh, in the 2018. I thought you were talking about the kid who just gets murdered in the car.
What was his name, like Julian or something like that? And he saw a girl getting stabbed and he said, nope, I'm not staying for this. And took off. I would have loved to have seen the same thing happen with that woman. But instead, he's, like, lumbering towards her pretty far away. And yet there's no fight is put up. She grabs a knife and that's it. Yeah. She doesn't do anything with it. And for this film, I agree. On the bus, they could have easily overpowered him. There were so many of them. Like, one or two of them were going to get killed no matter what. But the rest of them could have jumped in and really jumped this dude, because he's not, like I said, he's not Michael Myers. He's a man in his 70s with a chainsaw. He's not that strong. Technically, shouldn't be, at least. So I don't know anymore. I don't know anymore what's wrong with these characters, that we just write them as helpless victims and then that's it. And it doesn't make sense when we're giving them backstories of surviving school shootings and things like that are going to make us believe that there is a setup that will potentially have a payoff, which means this is a universe where people would defend themselves and nobody does. Leatherface gets a whack to the chin and then that's it.
And then he comes back and decapitates a character and does his chainsaw dance. The end.
Yeah. And it's like, nothing new. You're good. Nothing happened.
Yeah, literally. Like,
nothing happened.
Here we are back to square one once again.
More happens in the Blair Witch Project than this film.
Yeah, because what do we have at the end of the movie? Leatherface goes back to his house, which still exists for whatever reason.
Yeah. What are we supposed to be? Are we supposed to go,
yeah, that was what that was the see, that when we were talking last week about the thing with Stu Macher's house in Scream, that's the shit that they avoided in Scream, where it was like, oh, like, they did it, but they did it in a way where it was like, you were taken along for the ride with them and they showed it to you when they were ready, which helped with the kind of the suspense and the tension. In this movie, it's like, nah, he's just walking up to his house, and if you know what he's doing, great, and if not, doesn't fucking matter anyways.
Because it's the last one.
I hope so. I hope this is the last one.
Because what would they call the sequel if they had made a sequel? What the hell would...
Texas Chainsaw Massacre Returns.
Again, and then one more time, and then Sally's back. She didn't die?
Yeah, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 Electric Boogaloo.
What's with you in that?
That's a thing. Electric Boogaloo.
I don't know. Sally's not dead. How about that? There's my theory.
Ugh.
If Leatherface isn't dead,
shows up with a
she's
giant scar.
Because she's younger.
He missed all my vital organs.
Oh yeah,
all my vital organs.
I've got a limp now.
My stomach moved to the side, and the chainsaw blade just went right into my fleshy gut area.
Yeah, I have a limp because of a severed nerve. And
you're doing the Scream thing.
Yeah,
eh?
old scar tissue saved my life.
Right. Yeah, no, like, man, Scream 5 just puts all these requels into perspective at how fucking bad they are. And how, like, lazily written they are. Because you know what I would not complain about Scream 5? It's not lazily written.
No.
And if there are lazy parts, I would even go as far as to think they might be intentional.
Right. It's not lazily written, but it's also not overwritten. You know what I mean?
Right.
It is a simple plot. It just makes sense. And that's all Texas Chainsaw needs to be, is something simple. This movie was, like, so simple that it didn't make any sense. Yeah. I have nothing else to say about this movie. This movie sucks.
No, I don't either. I like we've been saying, it's a movie that I just don't understand who it's for.
Yeah. Who's this movie for?
No idea.
Well, it's not for us.
Not for fans of the movie.
Yeah.
Not for fans of the original. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And that's a shame. And that's a shame because, again, I was excited. I was like, oh man, what are we gonna see here? Like, gonna see something really cool? Fede Alvarez? Just kidding.
Look, my intention is not to shit all over these movies, obviously, and it's never my intention to, like, completely take away intention.
Sure.
Obviously, these movies are made for entertainment and for people that are huge fans of Texas Chainsaw. But I think for something like this, maybe the fans should be taken into account when writing the script, as opposed to just doing whatever you want with it.
And again, that was why I thought, like, oh, well, Fede Alvarez is involved, then he knows horror movies.
You know...
He does.
Yeah.
He does know horror movies. That's the problem. That's my issue with this movie.
So where does Texas Chainsaw go from here? Is it now a streaming app movie? Is it straight to DVD? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because Leatherface was, Texas Chainsaw 3D was the last one to come out in theaters. So have they lost that type of attraction, that they're no longer something that people want to see on the big screen? They're not cinematic enough either.
Yeah, that's what I don't know.
They feel so low budget.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, I think...
And it could be low budget. It doesn't need to have a huge budget. That's the thing. Because the 2003 version, although seems minimal, you can see in its production, like, where everything's going. Cinematic.
Right.
The casting, the makeup effects, which, by the way, I don't know why we walk away from the 2003 version thinking that we've just witnessed a gore fest when really we haven't. It's not that gory.
No, it's not. And again, that's what this movie has that I just... It's like with the Halloween movies, right? Like, when was Halloween ever gory?
Never. And it wasn't supposed to be.
Right.
You know, the original didn't have any blood. So why should this one? But, like, even the 2018 one, it had blood, but, like, within reason. Right. Halloween Kills is just like an all-out splatterfest. And I don't know what that says about the horror genre right now. Like, what are we trying to do anymore? Are we trying to scare people, or are we just trying to show them really, really over-the-top kills? It's like we're in the 80s again, you know, with slasher films.
I feel like that's what it is.
Yeah, I think audiences are now desensitized, though, that we should just go back to actual horror, actual tension, actual characters that we care about, not wanting to see horrible things happen to them. Right. That way, when things do happen to them, we actually give a shit. You know, it's engaging.
Yeah, I agree.
There's not much. There's not much else to say about this movie.
No, there's not.
Because, it was funny because when you asked, you brought this one up, you weren't going to talk about this film. That's how uninterested you were.
Yeah. Well, that's the issue. The issue that I had with this movie is I just didn't really want to talk about it because it was just so... It was so not good.
It's just a throwaway. And I remember telling you, we should talk about it because we have so much to say, and yet there's not much to say at the same time.
No,
it's a bizarre situation.
That's the thing. Like it's such a movie that there's just so little to
work with.
Yeah. And again, you have Texas Chainsaw.
So Leatherface looks too young. Sally's pointless. Leatherface is not paranormal, so why is he surviving anything? Sally didn't shoot him in the face when she had the chance. The bus massacre was cool. Nobody hurt the chainsaw when the guy was decapitated. How does the chainsaw still have gas when he pulled it out of the wall? It's not as good as the 2003 remake, but it's equally as shitty as the Texas Chainsaw 3D. And I don't understand how those girls would have thought he was dead after whacking him in the chin.
Yeah, I don't either.
And the ending was weird. Those were literally, I just read you my notes.
The ending, like that. The ending was weird.
That's all I put. Ending was weird. I didn't know how to feel after that. I was like, and keep in mind, I was 2 cocktails in and I was, I wasn't sure of what I was looking at, or maybe I missed something but nope. The next morning I remembered everything. And it's exhausting talking about a film that you don't like.
Well, yeah. It's exhausting talking about film in general, but especially things you don't like. So, Andrew, where can people find you when you're not here?
Everything is Andy Gnosis. That is Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube. Andy Gnosis.
How do you spell that?
That's Gnosis.
So you're telling me you don't talk about movies for a living?
That's exactly what I'm telling you.
This is news to me.
This is, yeah. The problem is I talk too much and I have a tendency to not shut up.
Oh, that's why you're here.
We're 2 guys who don't know when to shut up.
Is that not... That was under the impression that's what it was?
Well, I've lived in 20 fucking years of being told to shut up. And now finally I have something to talk about and I don't care anymore. So I'm good at...
I can fucking talk again.
So we have too much to say. That's the problem. But I mean, isn't that the point of this?
It is.
It's to listen to 2 guys who just have way too much to say.
Exactly. As for me, you can find me at cstachiw.com, cstachiw.com. That is my link tree. That is where you can go to find the things that I work on. As for this show, culturecast.com, patreon.com/culturecast. If you like what we're doing here, let me know. If not, don't. I don't know. I'm not going to stop making this content anyway. So, yeah, Andrew, thank you for joining me as always, and we'll catch you on the next episode.